It is your prisonplanet.tv memberships that fund so much of what we do here on this operation. And then we're more than happy for the TV show after it's aired live, then be leaked out onto the web to tens of millions of people. That's our goal. All right, folks, it is another live worldwide transmission. Get ready. I am your host, Alex Jones. We have a top professor joining us, Roman Yampolskiy, who was on with us about 2 years ago, warning of a cybernetic takeover of society. And he's going to be joining us for about 45 minutes in the second hour. You've got coming out where all the major pharmacological pills will have tracker chips in them that report back to Skynet on you. All of the appliances with wireless internet are watching you. That's what the CIA director said. I remember in the Batman Before Last, the one with the Joker, they used the sonar, they used the wireless internet on the cell phones to create a system that scans and maps the entire city, but that also listens to everybody. That's real technology. For decades, they've been using wireless internet and wireless telecommunications to scan. They've got receiver chips. We've had engineers on about this, where it doesn't just go out and transmit data and then receive data in the transmitter and receiver. They can have another system that when it transmits out, it bounces back, just like you use radar to make out the shape of an aircraft, and it can look right through your walls. That's what I keep trying to explain to people here. And this is all being announced, by the way. This is in Wired Magazine, Washington Times, Associated Press, and you're saying, what does that have to do with robot takeover? Everything is being jacked with surveillance systems by design. This is being set up. So we're going to be breaking all of that down today. We also have a very interesting guest, the makers, James Lane and Richard Grove, in studio of a new film that we are exclusively distributing for the next 3 months. And that is, of course, State of Mind. That is the best film out there on the history, present, and future of different systems of mind control. It's very well done. It's a great tool to bring yourself to a higher level of understanding, but also to wake up friends and family. It's available on Blu-ray, I should add, not just DVD, at InfoWarsStore.com. And while supplies last, there's maybe 1,000 of them left. So we'll have to take that special off very soon. You can get a free DVD of American Dream, the animated film exposing the Private Federal Reserve. It's very entertaining. And so that special will end as soon as those are gone. So take advantage of that at InfoWarsStore.com. But I didn't mean to go off into a plug. They're going to be in studio with us here today. They're visiting us because we're going to tape some intros and outros and things for the 17th of July, when we're going to premiere for prisonplanet.tv viewers. Start shipping the 15th. Start shipping in about 2 weeks and 3 days on DVD. And then 2 days later, we premiere it on InfoWars Nightly News, InfoWarsNews.com, and prisonplanet.tv. We're going to premiere. We'll have the regular live news that night, or if it's taped, it'll be taped. Some days it's live, some days it's taped, I don't know. And then it will go into the special we're going to tape tonight, where we talk about the film and then come back and forth within the film and discuss it. So that's all, again, available right now for purchase and to support the broadcast, and the huge nut we have to crack every month as well. We couldn't do any of this without your support. We are the biggest alternative media organization in the world right now, fighting on multimedia fronts, and I want to commend all the supporters and PrisonPlanet.tv members for making that possible. We'll be back with bombshell, Hastings news, Snowden news, military news, you name it. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Wednesday, the 26th day of June, 2013. We're going to be live here for the next 3 hours. We have a top technology professor joining us who has been warning of a technological, technocratic singularity takeover. This is kind of the different view than Ray Kurzweil that says all is rosy, all is glowing. He'll be with us for part of the next hour. And then we're going to, that's Roman Yampolskiy. And then we've got James Lane and Richard Grove with the new film, State of Mind, dealing with the real secrets of the global mind control program in studio coming up today. Now, before I go any further here, I want to open the phones up to take your calls. Again, first-time callers here today, give you a chance to join us on air. The toll-free number to talk about any issue that you'd like to discuss. I do want to take a lot of calls in the first hour, and I never seem to get around to this. I take them in the last 15 minutes or so, but we're going to open the phones up starting at the next segment. And the number to join us is 800-259-9231. I love the wild card grab bag of the callers. Every time I listen to a rebroadcast, it's the calls that I find most interesting. Now, we don't screen them, so sometimes we get prank calls, and sometimes we get people that are drunk, but that's interesting as well. I like to not have that filter. The only time we screen the calls is if I say specifically I want to get police officers on about their view of something, or if I want to get doctors on about Obamacare, or if I want to let nurses call in and talk about how they're euthanizing people all over the U.S., and you hear the nurses call in saying, oh, yeah, we're euthanizing a lady on the 3rd floor right now. She's begging for food and water. She's 10 days in. And you'll hear in the background, Dr. Walker, Dr. Walker. I mean, they're there. Things like that. But it's just a wide open free-for-all. Whatever your question, whatever your comment, if you disagree with me, if you agree with me, 800-259-9231, 800-259-9231. We have a lot of good news out there. 97% opposed to TSA naked body scanners. TSA completes enforced public comment period on rollout of invasive technology, and 97% on the public notice rulemaking federal site. People have to give their info and everything. 97% are against it. I mean, I talk to people, and over 80% that I talk to say Snowden's a hero. And then you see polls saying, half of Americans think Snowden's a traitor. You see another poll saying 79% say he's a hero. And then you learn who these polling groups are. The more accurate ones, you see disinfo pieces out there about them saying they're not accurate. And they'll use a few cases where their poll doesn't, come true in an election, like Zogby. I found Zogby is more accurate. Gallup's a little more accurate, even though it can be spun sometimes. If you have public policy polling, that's run by the Democrats, basically. I mean, what a joke. What a joke. We called up to pay to have them to do a poll just to see if we could get them to do it. And they told us, they said, we do not like your politics. We're not going to let you pay us $5,000 to do a poll. This is just amazing. So my point is that when you see an article out there, like on Infowars.com yesterday, saying majority of Americans support drones domestically, and Paul Watson reports on the poll, I've called Paul up, who I think is great, but I'm just having a public discussion about this open air. And I said, Paul, I don't really believe that, I think it was 69% in one part of the poll agreed for anti-terrorism for drone, and 60-something%, oh, there, he's pulled it up. Yeah, it's 67%, I'm going from memory. There it is, of them support the use of unmanned spy drones for homeland security missions, and 63% support their use for fighting crime. But as Rand Paul has said, it's pre-crime. They're flying around surveilling you, plus the balance of power is way out of whack when the government's this big. But the issue that I'm basically trying to get at here is that you can't believe all these polls. What you can believe is hundreds of thousands of people signing a petition to deport Piers Morgan. That shows people don't like him and his redcoat usurping anti-gun activities. What you can believe is hundreds of thousands on the White House website saying, we want you to pardon Edward Snowden, Obama. Or hundreds of thousands on the White House website, it's growing towards that, saying they want an investigation of the death of Michael Hastings, the reporter that said he had the biggest story of his life, and then hours later, his car blew up. That's just some of the issues. But there's the article on Infowars.com. 97% oppose the TSA body scanners in the public comment period. So that is more reflective of what I've seen. I've talked to people at airports, and most of them, I'd say 80, 90% are against the naked body scanners and know it's all security theater and dog training and slave training. I have a friend who works at a high level at the Austin Bergstrom Airport. I won't say his name. He asked me not to. And he told me, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago about how, well, I was with him. And he said, here, let's turn on the television. Let's watch News 8 Austin, the local Time Warner 24-hour news channel. And he said, let's see what they do. And by the way, News 8's better in some cases than other mainstream media. They actually have some good people over there. I'm not throwing them under the bus if they're listening. But this happened. And he said they talked to 40-plus people trying to get them to support the pat-downs and all the stuff that was going in then. And they found one old lady who said she thought it was great after 40 people. Because in his job, he had to be there watching this. And so we turned it on. We're watching it. And, you know, we're there drinking beer. This was entertainment. And it comes on, and he goes, watch, it's going to be her. And he had the old lady. It was the one person that was for it, and he was rolling around, you know, with sick laughter. It was very painful, actually, to see the distortion that goes on. So you've got to be in the media or around the media to learn how these things work. But that's a great example of that. So there, I've gone over that issue as just an example. Something I've been wanting to air for days, because I came back across it this weekend, was the so-called Kuwaiti girl that it turned out was really the daughter of the ambassador of the Kuwaiti ambassador. And she famously got up and said they threw the babies out on the floor, you know, they stomped their brains out, all this kind of stuff. And they said, for her security, we're not going to say her name. We're going to use a alias. And you could tell the whole body language of the committee hearing. It was totally fake. And it indeed came out that it was a fake testimony, and nobody threw babies out of incubators. And there were major journalistic investigations, and I've got those articles dealing with it. But when you watch it, then you realize that they had fake newscast from Atlanta saying they were in Kuwait and Israel with blue screens behind them and palm trees, saying they were on the roof as chemical weapons Scud missiles were coming in. But back then, the public was so mindless and so trusting that they would even send this over an unscrambled satellite feed where people that had 10-foot type dishes and bigger could pick it up, and people recorded it as they would go, okay, get ready to act, all right, and they'd make dirty jokes and stuff and then put their helmets on and then, you know, takes. This wasn't live. They'd crack up laughing and they'd go, do it again, do it again. Oh, we're here in Tel Aviv, or we're here in Kuwait. In different days, same reporters, same set. And I remember watching that in 1990, 1991, fake newscast. Folks, if you think it's bad then, it's much worse now. And that's my point, is that we're not living in Kansas anymore. But what's happening is there's two different worlds happening. You've got old media that's real, like talk radio to some extent. You've got some print publications that want readers, so sometimes they tell the truth, like Rolling Stone. You've got new media all over the place, and together we're really bigger than the establishment dinosaur media. And so the globalists are operating in a vacuum. They're up there acting like everybody's buying into their propaganda, acting like they still have all the viewers. All they have is the biggest sets that cost hundreds of millions of dollars a year to run. TV's very expensive. And they're losing money, all of them. Even News Corp, that has more viewers and all the other cable news together, has been losing money on record. Its news division, because it's a propaganda division. General Electric and Microsoft that have been, connected to NBC and MSNBC for a long time, NBC for 50 years, to General Electric, they're going to make money off their weapons division where they've got, $5 million cruise missiles and $1 million cluster bombs and bunker busters that are being dropped on people. So what if their news division loses $100 million a year, $200 million a year sometimes? It doesn't matter. That's the cost of brainwashing people. But you see, they don't even have the audience anymore. But all they've got is the illusion of the prestige of being on these stupid shows. And yes, if you're on one of these shows and then you do something interesting, then it will be put on all of the mainstream shows, and then you've got a big audience. Because then you're on Jay Leno. Then you're on, the other shows that do have large audiences compared to news, and then it gets a ton of attention. So I just want to continue to announce to everybody that the establishment is flailing around, and so they're trying a tyrannical takeover, but it's not in a vacuum. There's resistance to it. It's like they're coming in for a landing like there's no resistance, and we're here waiting for them. Now, I'm going to go to your calls because I promised to do it, and then the big news on Infowars.com, hiding in plain view. Michael Hastings' wife has said, quote, she's going to take down whoever did this, and they basically, her and her friends and his friends believe he was killed. All right, we're back live, ladies and gentlemen, and we're going to go right to your phone calls, and then after I've taken 10 calls or so, I'm going to get into Michael Hastings' wife vows to take down whoever did this. That's the quote from the Infowars.com article by Paul Joseph Watson. Friend of journalist reveals colleagues were too scared to release panicked email. And then everybody's supposed to just line up and go along with this. I want to talk directly to his friend, the sergeant that had the courage to go public, Sergeant Biggs, Joe Biggs. He said, everybody's scared, but I'm not scared. He said, Hastings, he said, Mike would stand up for me if this happened. And Fox News' Megyn Kelly made jokes about tinfoil hats. It's just despicable, ladies and gentlemen, that we've got a war on the press in this country. He says, oh, they're coming after me in a tweet 15 hours before, sends an email out 2 hours before, his car blows up, and then we're immediately not supposed to ask if he was killed. Right there tells you what's going on. I'm going to be breaking that down and playing some clips of that and getting into some other world news, obviously. But right now, let's go to Will in Georgia. Will, you're on the air. Welcome.
Thank you, Alex. Thank God for you and for InfoWars. It's a powerful ministry, and it's an opportunity to take our country back, to restore our creedal civil religion. Our ancestors received America in covenant from the creator of the universe, and nobody in between. This is the promised land that Isaiah prophesied. And the forces that are marshaled against us are those that Thomas Jefferson, whose writings and life prove him to be a prophet of God, is Zion. We are the new Israel. Anybody can read Isaiah. It's quite clear. England's chief rabbi, Jonathan Sacks, agrees. All the sides of stipulations are met in America. And Michael Hastings, within 5 minutes passing the red light at whatever that, everybody can go look it up, red light, camera, Hastings, they can see the picture that the paparazzi took. In about 4 minutes, I think in 34 seconds, from passing that light, several blocks away, his car was blown up, and the fellow with the tzitzits and the kippah on was out there with a garden hose already sprung from his street. Imagine how long it would take. So it was some minutes before the car blew up after it went through the intersection. And by the time the light gets down there, by the time the camera gets down to the bombing, the gentleman with the tzitzits and the kippah on already has the yard hose in front of his house, strung out, watering a car fire. He had a beard, white hair. We know how old he was. Everybody knows you don't put water on a car fire if you want to put it out. You do that in order to exacerbate it. And that's why the flames were going higher and higher as he put the water on it. So you just think of the timing. Under 5 minutes, he had already strung the water hose out from his house, had gone back to the spigot, turned it on, was putting water on a car fire. and it was a bombing. We know it was Boston brakes. We know he was going maybe 45 miles an hour through that intersection. Evidently, the people behind him running him on remote control didn't have the wherewithal, or at that time in the morning didn't figure they needed to stop at the light, so they just ran the light. That completely an assassination. That's crucifixion 2.0. The same people hammered the impalement stakes into tens of thousands of Christs for twice denying Caesar was God Almighty. You can read Thomas Jefferson's letter to his nephew.
No, I hear you. I hear you. Look, all I know is there should be an investigation of this, and you can't trust the police to do it. I mean, the coroner of Breitbart that did the autopsy died of poisoning. And they're like, oh, well, maybe that's normal. It's just amazing what's going on. I appreciate you calling in. I mean, they're killing a lot of people. Aaron Swartz, you name it, the list goes on and on. Pat Tillman, they got caught lying about that. They killed 5 people out of Private Lynch's unit who went public saying it was all a PR stunt. They murdered them. They had assassins popping up, you know, shooting them in their backyard and stuff. It's just absolutely incredible. Let's go to TJ in Alabama. TJ, go ahead.
Hey, Alex, how are you?
Pretty good, sir.
Hey, listen, Jesus Christ is Lord and Savior, and we're all info warriors in this together. Alex, I'm about a 2-year listener now, and wanted to call in about the capabilities of that Mercedes car. I hear a lot of people calling, talking about, you know, get Mercedes to step up and do this. I bet you haven't heard anything from them, have you?
No, we haven't heard anything from Mercedes.
Well, let me tell you, my mother was killed in a Mercedes-Benz SLK 1999, SLK little 2-seater. And so the airbag did not come out properly, so my family, we sued Mercedes-Benz for wrongful death. And let me tell you something, Alex, that in 1999, that car did not have OnStar in it, okay? It didn't have any type of a cellular phone hookup in that automobile. But when that airbag module engaged...
Tell you what, I want to hear this when we come back. I want to hear the rest of your story. Stay with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back live. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We were just talking to a gentleman in Alabama about what specifically happened to his mother and what happened when he was dealing with Mercedes in this, I think he said 1999. He's saying there was an OnStar, wasn't supposedly a cell phone that they use in these wireless navigation systems that we know on record are being used to track everything you do and now remote control the car. That's the DARPA project director on record, and a car and driver, and the former national security advisor, Richard Clark, as well, just for people before Rachel Maddow comes out and says that I'm lying and saying that they can remote control cars. That's a fact, but she knows her audience is so stupid she'll probably, I'm just giving her a good example of kind of how she likes to lie, probably a good lie for her. She can say that I said, you know, giant wasp are underneath the Capitol building. I never said that, but she said I said that. This is the type of deception they engage in. But specifically, sir, getting back to you, go ahead and tell us specifically what you were about to finish up with.
Okay, Alex, like I said, the Mercedes-Benz was a brand new SLK 1999 model, and my mother was killed in a head-on collision at a very, very low delta V change in velocity. But the kicker here is that the airbag didn't deploy fully. It kind of cloverleafed. So within 15 hours of that automobile accident, there were engineers from Stuttgart, Germany on the ground covertly that got into where the car was being stored and downloaded from the car's computer every bit of data from that car. Now, that was in 1999, so somehow that car had a mechanism in it that communicated to Stuttgart, Germany, that the airbag module had fired. And so just think of the progress that's been made since that time to now. Like I said, there was no OnStar. There was no visible way of communicating that we, the consumer, knew of that was in that vehicle. But there were engineers on the ground that bribed the storage place to get into and plugged up some type of a mechanism to the car to extract the data. That's how defensive they are. And get this, in the trial, it was a 14-day jury trial. The father of the airbag flew in on a Gulfstream 5 from Germany. He invented the airbag, and guess who he was working for when he invented it? He was working for Mercedes-Benz. His name is Dr. Luigi Brambella, and he said he had never seen an airbag module do that in all of his life and his work. He's a consultant now for them. But we also subpoenaed, there's a company, can I say the name of it, Alex?
Yeah, go ahead, sir.
I believe it's Bosch. And this Bosch company has the algorithm for the ignition switch for the airbag, and they were subpoenaed to give us that algorithm, and they denied it. They would not give the algorithm. So, that's my point there as far as that goes. Mercedes had about 15 strings of lawyers and 25 paralegals, a whole building rented. I keep hearing a lot of the audience say, well, let Mercedes step up, let them step up. I don't believe you'll see them step up. They're part of the military-industrial complex.
Sure. Well, I appreciate your call, sir, and sorry about what happened to your mother. Look, the larger issue here is we always lose the forest for the trees, or the trees for the forest. Everything is having remote control kill switches put in it. Everything is having surveillance systems put in it. And you pay for the extra cost of all the electronics goods due to this global standardization. And I don't care if you're in Germany or Australia or Russia or China or Canada or Mexico or Chile or Venezuela for that matter. Everything manufactured by these Fortune 100 companies is globally agreed upon, even outside of law, to have these tracker systems. Like those articles earlier this year about the communist Chinese can track and monitor and cut off electronics in the U.S., and including a lot of electronic chips and components in weapon systems. Well, of course, that's because all of this stuff has to have back doors, so the NSA, which isn't for the U.S. government, we pay for it, but it's run by foreign banks. Over 100 major companies, private contractors, are the ones that get the contracts to run all this and to do the analyst work and do the spying. Private corporations have come and lobbied to build a giant government and then have the keys given to them, and then they're paid to rape us financially and intellectually and our privacy. And so they've so overshot us in the over-the-topness of the tyranny that I get up here 15 years ago, 7 years ago, a year ago, and say all the new video game consoles that are high-end, all the new cars that are high-end, all the new houses that are high-end are total surveillance. I mean, I saw billion-dollar contracts for regions that we covered 2 years ago. No one else covered it but Infowars.com, and Drudge picked it up. DrudgeReport.com. No one else covered it. The companies bragging they'd gotten contracts to put microphones and hidden cameras in streetlights and fake power transformers and other systems with shotgun mics to listen to everybody. And by the way, even before that came out, it was in the news in 1999 in the Austin American-Statesman, and I have shots of it in the Statesman, saying, oh, we got a federal grant for gunshot detectors, $800,000 a year over the next decade. Kay Bailey Hutchinson, the senator, bragged that she'd got gunshot detectors for Austin. Notice you've never heard one person arrested from a gunshot detector. You notice you've never heard about it. They've been put in nationwide now. Austin was one of the pilot cities in the late 90s. I looked at the company name and went and search engined it, and it was on their site where they were playing promo audio. They had promo audio bragging that they were really shotgun mics, and said, here you hear people talking on the park bench from 200 yards away. And it's a real recording with birds tweeting and people talking. And, of course, it was phrased like they were criminals. Just like the new Homeland Security training videos, in all of them, The drones are watching gun owners shoot guns on their ranch or sell guns to each other, and it's always white guys with John Deere hats. That's what this is for. It's always been, of course there's drones. Now the government admits it domestically. Of course there's Google blimps. I told you a decade ago Google was going to roll out with blimps, really NSA blimps, and call it internet service when it's really surveillance platforms looking through your walls with ground-penetrating radar. Black and white images, that's 30-year-old technology that was declassified. They've got wireless internet, basically what it is, beams, where it's color, folks. And by color, they can see every freckle on your body, every goosebump. It's better vision than human vision. And they just fly over your house, scanning everything you're doing. And it's all on record is the issue. Do you understand this? And you paid for it. They get rich. Google is the biggest corporation in the world. You can debate whether it's Google, Apple, or ExxonMobil. The point is, they're the triumphant, the trifecta up there, and they all sit up there squatting on top of us, and it's all a giant joke to them. What the top Google guys, one's worth $20 billion, one's worth $40 billion, one's worth $30 billion, one's worth $10 billion, $8 billion. They're all just up there sucking your money, sucking everything, laughing at you. But it's okay because Vince Vaughn has a movie coming out where Google's really sweet and funny and nerdly and, you know, they're your future. Ha, 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 ha. This is all the big sick joke for these people. I'm going to go back to your calls. First, I want to tell you the new magazine is in. It's the new July issue, and it's You Are the Target of Government Spying. Big, glossy, color magazine. 60 color, glossy pages. It's got quote of the month. The total influence, economic, political, even spiritual, is felt in every city, every state house, every office of the federal government. We must be alerted to the danger that the public policy could itself become the captive of a scientific, technological elite. And then he goes into the military-industrial complex. January 17th, 1961, 3 days before he stepped down as president to John F. Kennedy. That's the kind of stuff in this magazine, just totally and completely jam-packed with key intel. Letters to the editor, incredible art, NSA spying, intimidation and censorship, what it's really all about. New polls show Americans oppose NSA spying. Just amazing graphics with a great job the team does. It's got gardening tips, and then it's got 10 InfoWars free bumper stickers. 10 in every magazine. Now, I couldn't afford to put these in the magazines we put on the streets in Austin and San Antonio. So the 10 bumper stickers, 5 little ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little ones, and then we've got over here when you get to it, 4 big ones. America has been occupied by globalist forces, Infowars.com. Listen to Alex Jones' show at Infowars.com. Infowars.com, forbidden information. Listen to Alex Jones at Infowars.com. We only had the money to put these in 50,000 of the 120,000 magazines we printed. So the 50,000 we have to sell and to send out to subscribers have about 40 cents per magazine of added cost. That's more than it costs to print each magazine of these high quality, you know, the petroleum-based black and white bumper stickers that last for years. This is a weapon system. And you want to wake people up for all the subscribers, anybody that buys them in bulk in groups of 10 up to 100 at cost, or if you want to just buy, you know, a 10-pack, we're selling these at cost to get the word out, and it is just an excellent magazine, great to wake up friends and family. It gets into what happened at Bilderberg. It gets into 2013, the year Bilderberg collapsed. It is all in there, and I'm really proud of the job the crew did. Attention, patriotic Americans and freedom lovers everywhere. We are putting these 10 bumper stickers, that's 500,000 total, in these 50,000 magazines so that you can post them in legal and lawful areas to get the word out. And this is having a big effect around the country. This is your mission, should you choose to accept it. And also take photos of where you post them in legal and lawful areas and your own property and things like that. And then send them to us, and we have the email in there, letters at Infowars.com, so that you can see it in the next issue of the magazine. We break down who's at Bilderberg, including Petraeus, and so much more. So there you go. That is a labor of love. Infowars July issue, July 4th, launching a major info weapon at the globalist to awaken humanity. Again, InfoWarsStore.com. You can get 10% off on promo code WATER on the ProPure stainless steel water filtration, the best systems out there. I did the research, went out and got them as a sponsor because they're the best. InfoWarsStore.com. And all of your purchases make this news organization possible. I am dumping more than 100%. You heard me right. I'm spending backup money, more than 100% right now to try to totally awaken the sleeping giant that is humanity. So I want to commend all of you that are PrisonPlanet.tv members, everybody that gets the ProPure systems, everybody that pre-orders the film State of Mind at InfoWarsStore.com, and all of our AM and FM affiliates for carrying the show, all the sponsors, you, the listeners, and the good Lord above. Let's go to Dan. Oh, no. That's right. I already talked to the Mercedes guy. Let's talk to Dan in Oregon. Dan, you're on the air. Thanks for holding.
Hey, how you doing? God bless you and all you do. A lot of fans out here in Oregon of yours.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, yeah, when you said there's a lot of resistance, of course, we're not all going to lay down and run under our bed and let these people stomp us and take our properties and destroy things. You know, who knows what's going to happen if the banks ever collapse everything. I don't know how much control we'd have over that.
Well, they're incrementally collapsing things, and they're putting in soft martial law to prepare us. That's what all of this is about. They put chemical weapons in the water on record. We are under a foreign banking attack. It controls the bureaucracy and the health departments. The health departments are really the military arm to carry out the CPS grabbing, the forced drugging, the poisoning of the water. They were set up by the eugenicists in 1910 in New York.
Wow. Yeah, you know what? And even in Oregon, like you say with the health, people are having so many breathing problems here because they're really spraying heavy in the skies anymore.
Of course they are.
It's just, and I can't believe that people don't look up and notice what's wrong with the sky. You know, they don't notice things. But it's like, it's everything going on. People are more worried about things. I don't even see how people can watch MSNBC and think they're getting news. I watched it yesterday to see what they were going to talk about with what the Supreme Court did with the voter ID thing. You're saying, of course, it's all racist. You know, everything's racist anymore. It's so disgusting. It's not 1850, and they treat it like, oh, you slaves. That's all in the past.
Well, what's happening is they've already got electronic voting fraud in most areas. So the real issue here is that there is gerrymandering by whoever's already in power going on, and the Democrats and Republicans told the Supreme Court to do this because they want to be able to keep their little mafia fiefdoms set up. So that's what this is really all about, because the only thing that can get around the electronic voting fraud is the gerrymandering. So you may own the fraud company that's controlling how people vote, but it doesn't matter. The Democrats or Republicans, whoever's in power, they'll control the gerrymandering, where, again, they can't have election fraud if it's too obvious that you're a Democratic district or a Republican district, but it's going to the other group. So it's all just a bunch of mafias. The only thing holding them back is the separation of powers. That's why the globalists want a centralization and always demonize gridlock. Because if they ever get a total centralization, then there won't be all the infighting by the criminal groups that actually holds them back. The reason the Nazis were so bad is that they got a bureaucracy together that was in total control. And it took the Soviets really 20 years to really get fully taken over before they could really start killing everybody in mass. That's why David Rockefeller really worshipped Mao, because he immediately was able to kill tens of millions. And they like that. They like to go directly to mass murder, but they have to get you ready for that first. We'll be right back. When we kick off the next hour, I'm going to get into the bombshell news and these audio clips and video clips of Michael Hastings, one of his best friends, this Sergeant Joe Biggs, one of the people he blind copied the email that was panicked, and the fact that the family basically says they think he was killed, and the wife has said, quote, by the way, this is not getting media attention. This is hiding in plain view. This has been out since yesterday, that she said, quote, she's going to take down whoever did this. Well, you better come out and say you think it was foul play clearly, or you might fall down and hit your head. Or your car will blow up and they say it hit a tree. And again, this is how the law of the jungle works once you're in a tyranny. People just start rolling over in fear. And once that happens, the tyrants win. And then the worst of the worst becomes the norm. This is how freedom dies, folks. Is when everybody just gets scared, everybody complies, everybody just says, oh, no, you know, Aaron Swartz must have hung himself, even though he said he was going to fight the feds, and even though he was worth, you know, tens of millions of dollars and just gotten engaged and said he was going to fight the fake federal charges. I mean, now the FBI just comes to your house, shoots you in the top of the head, and then they go, oh, we shot him in the head. He didn't have any weapons, didn't attack us. He's dead. They're like, oh, it's no big deal. Cops all the time. You see it in the news, you know. Guy gets out of his car. They tell him get out of his car. Guy gets out, nothing in his hand, shoot him dead. And they go, well, we felt threatened. Maybe they can just put us in sand pits and shoot us like the Nazis and say, I feel threatened. Boom, boom, boom. I mean, we're about one step away from that. Speaking of tyranny, look at this article up on Infowars.com of the Daily Caller. Gag order sought for eighth grader arrested for NRA shirt that simply said protect your rights and had the NRA symbol on it. And it goes on to say that CBS affiliate WOWK-TV is in court seeking a gag order to keep him from talking about the case and to keep his father from speaking out and saying he's been having his First Amendment persecuted. Yeah, oh, hey, they're pointing out that we're a bunch of tyrants, that we told him to take his shirt off. And he said, doesn't violate school policy. We're allowed to wear shirts. Just says protect your rights. So they arrested him. I've got an article where a gentleman is facing 13 years in prison in L.A. for drawing with water-soluble chalk, children's chalk, about people's rights on the street. Oh, yeah, they arrest people in Austin for that now. They will throw the book at you where I live. Because, again, the same thing's happening out in L.A. We're going into a big, fat tyranny, folks. You understand that? California man faces 13 years in jail for scribbling anti-bank messages in chalk. You criticize the New World Order, we're going to arrest you. And look, right there in the article out of RT, it says, a judge has barred his attorney from mentioning freedom of speech during trial. Oh, yeah, all over the country, state and federal courts, they say, you don't bring, I've read the transcripts, it's in the news all the time, there it is. You don't bring up the Constitution here. That the judge has sworn an oath to. These people are flaming tyrants. Flaming. And they are scared of your First Amendment. Because they know they've done wrong, folks. That's why they're persecuting the press. It's why they're telling pro-life groups, you can't be pro-life anymore. We're going to arrest you. Your speech isn't allowed. I mean, that's in the news. And the press won't even stand up for Hastings because they're not a press. They're a globalist regurgitation machine. The New World Order vomits lies. They gobble it up and vomit it back on us. Well, you know what? You can keep your stinking vomit, New World Order. As for me and my family, we choose justice, we choose honor, we choose courage, and we are full steam ahead, in, through, and beyond. Folks, history's happening right now. And, you know, oh, you're going to speak out to the press about your Second Amendment? We don't want that family talking to the press. Gag 'em! All right, I'm going to get into Hastings' wife saying, quote, she vows to take down whoever did this. You know, his car blew up. We're going to be getting to that in the next segment. Then we've got a special guest joining us on the Technocratic Takeover, a top professor. But right now, let's go back to your calls. William in Utah. William, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Alex. Well, I know a lot of people are scared, especially with this Michael Hastings thing coming out. It's pretty apparent. Everyone knows that it's real. You know, people are scared that
they're killing a lot of reporters. They're killing a lot of soldiers. They're killing good guys all over the place. Yeah, they're going to keep doing it.
And anyway, there's two things that I found in my personal life that's brought me peace and helped me get through these times. The first thing is, daily prayer, talking with our Father in heaven, the Father of our spirits. And the second thing is daily scripture study. I use my iPad every morning to read the King James Bible, and I also read the Book of Mormon. I don't know if have you ever read the Book of Mormon?
No, I haven't.
The most powerful chapters are the last 4 chapters. So it's Moroni chapter 7 through 10. I recommend if you don't read anything else, read those last 4 chapters. And if we do these two basic things, God will lead us to what we need to do to fight against tyranny and support freedom.
Very interesting. What's your take on courts telling Second Amendment advocates that they can't have their free speech? Gag orders sought for 8th grader arrested over NRA, and a man facing 13 years in jail in L.A. for water-soluble chalk with anti-New World Order messages on the sidewalk. The judge says do not bring up free speech as a defense, so that it can't be mentioned, so the government loses the appeal. This is judges consciously involved in trying to defraud justice.
Yeah, I think it's ridiculous. I myself, I'm an artist, and we all deserve the freedom of speech and expression. And
yeah, well, I've meant to do this for a while. I'm going out in Austin with chalk today, and I'm gonna write all over everything. I mean, give me a break. It's totally First Amendment. It washes off the next rain, and I think everybody everywhere. In fact, we should have on July 4th, in between hot dogs and fireworks. I think everybody should go out with chalk under the First Amendment. No, you may be arrested in this tyrant of a country, and write anti-New World Order, pro-liberty messages, maybe Founding Father quotes on the sidewalk. But see, if it's little kids out there drawing flowers and out there drawing little houses, they don't arrest them. They don't want you having your speech. They want you to pay your money to them and take some vaccines and roll over and die. And you know what? I tell them they can go right to Hades. Thank you, William. Charles in Georgia, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hello, sir. It's a pleasure to be with you. And I've been a listener for about 4 years now. I'm well awake. And I wanted to address this issue about the federal court makes gay marriage legal. I don't know whether or not you saw that. It came in today where you got all kind of new. Just type in federal court makes gay marriage legal, and you'll see a ton of articles where it's on different news networks where they've made gay marriage legal and everything. And I just want to say that the stuff you preach definitely coincides with what the Bible prophecy says. And for that, it's just amazing to know that there's people out there like yourself and other people that you interview and everything that are getting the truth out amongst people, because even though we live in a society where people easily get offended by other people telling the truth on it, and the Bible says the truth hurts. And you're going to have people that are going to get offended, they're going to get upset about it, but it has to be preached. I mean, Jesus said in the Bible that, if they'll persecute me, then they'll persecute those that follow me and those that follow my teachings and everything.
Yes, I haven't gotten to the big ruling. You can see drudgereport.com has the big rainbow flag up there and all the latest on it. We've got some articles on Infowars.com. But again, on the surface, it sounds like civil rights, and that's how it's sold. But in the reality, it's about teaching 5-year-olds about sex. It's about the government taking over from parents. It's about anti-family stuff. They do not like marriage. They do not like the family. That's the government. All right, we're now into hour number 2. Coming up, we have a top professor joining us dealing with the technological takeover that's happening. From your appliances spying on you to all the new pharmaceuticals that are going to come out. They have their way, are going to have tracker chips in them. That's all mainstream news. Told you that a decade ago. Now it's all mainstream. You might want to listen to us. We know what we're talking about. The Supreme Court strikes down federal law that marriage is between a man and a woman. Again, it's about going after marriage. People go, hey, let people live together, live in peace. That's how it is on the surface. But this agenda in the textbooks, in the plans, you see how anti-family Hollywood is. You see the agenda. You see how anti-man it is. This is a social engineering program to break down society on record. On record to tell 5-year-olds that Heather has 2 mommies, or that Bobby has 2 daddies. I mean, this is pedophile behavior. Forcing down the throat of children, specifically sexualizing them when they're supposed to be innocent. You know, Jocelyn Elders saying, let's teach 5-year-olds how to masturbate. Reach down and help them. It's just the government in our life. As MSNBC says, your kids belong to the state. And they've said back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, I cover it in the extras of Endgame 2.0 that's online. We show the university studies where they said, we're going to promote promiscuity so that people have abortions, don't have meaningful relationships. We're going to promote homosexuality. Homosexuality has always gone on, and I'm not here even demonizing people. The point is that they're force-feeding it, ladies and gentlemen, as just a way to be trendy. That's why there's so, I mean, you see the trends now where you know, a lot of women say they're lesbians, but then they end up getting married because they just go become a lesbian for a while because that's the trendy thing to do. Or, you know, same thing with men. And now they're just saying, we're pansexual, we're omnisexual. Humans have always, to some degree, been like that. Mammals are. The point is that they are artificially trying to amplify it unnaturally with chemicals in the food and water to reduce our population numbers and to break up the family. So Clinton is hailing Supreme Court overturning law. He signed. There you go. I mean, it's just all part of the two-facedness. So nothing belongs to the family. That's why they say in federal documents, do not say husband and wife. It's hurtful. Remember those stories about a month ago we covered? It actually says France has made it the law. See, a father, see, being straight is a crime, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, look at how they demonize gun owners, conservatives, libertarians. They're coming after us. Now, the average gay person is not into this, but they still will support any policy government puts out because, oh, that's their friend. That's the friend that wants them to have rights. Is that why the government in 1978, on record, this has been declassified partially, is part of a Navy program in a hepatitis operation in the Village there in New York, gave thousands of highly promiscuous gay men who were having hundreds of partners a month. Very destructive, folks. Very destructive lifestyle at that level. HIV, just like Bayer, helped pass that around as well. Oh, they care about you real good. They like it you're not going to have kids. They like it you're going to die alone, statistically. They like the fact that gay men have the lowest life expectancy. They want to kill you. The last thing they want is for you to ever have the joy of children. But don't worry. Don't worry. They're going to go take heterosexuals' kids. They're hunting us. And give them to the gay couples. That's what goes on. And I'm supposed to go, here, take people's kids. I mean, it's liberal. Maybe we should sacrifice our kids to a big homosexual altar. Maybe have a pyramid, and you go up, and the gay priests are there, and they chop your kid up with a meat cleaver, to prove you're not racist or homophobic. I mean, every society has done this. In Sodom and Gomorrah, whether you believe the Bible or not, the men come to the door and say, give us those men. Come out. We're going to have sex with you. Where did they get this idea of a gang of men coming and saying, we're going to rape you? Because in every society, once this starts, the Romans, it was outlawed, folks, because they'd seen what happened in other cultures. Rome rose, was stoic, got into this, and pretty soon it was Caligula dressed up like a werewolf, raping and killing children. And I bring this up because this is what all elites end up doing. Raping and killing children dressed up like a werewolf. You don't know about that? Look it up. They would have big, hundreds of people laying on the ground at those low tables eating. They had vomitoriums. You'd eat and eat and eat and vomit and vomit and vomit and then feed the vomit to dogs outside. I'm not joking. Look this up, called a vomitorium, where the word vomit comes from. Or Vulcan, vomiting like lava coming out, I guess in the Latin, if memory serves. And the point, and the whole point, that's why I guess it's also vulgate, means to, project out, to speak. And so they would go and do all this. And by the end, it was just ripping children's heads off, stabbing them, chewing their throats out, blood spraying all over the walls. I mean, that's where this goes. So just understand, that's where this goes. That's what's going to happen. That's where it ends. I mean, look at the BBC. Every week or two, someone's being arrested and pleading guilty to raping 9-year-old girls at devil orgies and raping 5-year-old boys and devil worshipping and necrophilia and hanging out with the royal family. And it's so many articles, I can't even cover it all because they just want to get it to where they can do whatever they want. You understand that? So there, I've talked about what's happening on that front. By the way, we've gotten in contact. It's a good idea because we pretty much instantly got in contact with some of the people that were blind copied the email, his good friends from Michael Hastings, and I want to cover that now. Friend, Michael Hastings was working on biggest story yet about CIA, not about reported love interest or women that the media claim were love interest of General Petraeus. Sergeant Joe Biggs says journalists would never have driven at high speed and said that he's talked to the wife, who he's good friends with, and that she's scared to go public and that when she gets more information on what she believes is happening, she will, quote, take down whoever did this. And that everyone that knew him said that he was scared. They were coming after him. They'd never seen him so flustered. And he'd been in combat zones for years, folks. He was an embedded combat reporter with the Marines and the Army in Iraq for years and Afghanistan for years. They'd never seen him even in combat situations act like this. And you know what happened to him a few hours later. So I want to go to a clip with Megyn Kelly so we can analyze this propaganda where she talks about tinfoil hats and stuff with Sergeant Joe Biggs, who, by the way, may be on the show today. Let's go ahead and go to that clip.
Question whether this was truly an accident.
It's the fact, the way that the other times that we've spoken before, and this email I got, it was just very panicked, and it didn't seem like something normally we would talk about. And I just felt a gut feeling, something didn't feel right.
Mm-hmm. But the police say it's an accident. They looked into it. They said, look, he was driving fast. It was 4:30 in the morning. It was dark. Lost control of the car, went through a red light, hit a tree.
Well, his friends and family that know him, everyone says he drives like a grandma. So that right there doesn't seem like something that he would be doing. I mean, he had a lot of friends and family that cared about him. He had a good life to live. There's no way he would be acting erratic like that and driving that out of control.
What do you think is going on here? I mean, because we talked about this a couple of times just because it's getting so much attention on the internet, and people who are close to Mr. Hastings are still raising questions about the LAPD and their conclusions that this was an accident. What is the alternate theory, that he was murdered, that he was intentionally targeted by someone?
I don't know that. I just know that from the email to hours later dying, it's just not a coincidence like that. Things don't add up. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered. I contacted by email Mercedes today, asked them if it's normal for their cars to blow up to that extent, for if the engines fly out on a normal basis. I mean, these are the real questions we need to ask.
And what of the, I mean, obviously he was investigating a couple of high-profile cases. He was looking into, he said, Jill Kelly, who was connected with the whole David Petraeus and General Clark. Go ahead.
His wife today said that that's definitely not true, that he was investigating into Jill Kelly.
Michael Hastings' wife says he was not investigating that.
Yes.
Okay. Well, what was he investigating, as far as you know, that would have caused any consternation whatsoever by someone?
CIA, but from what he said, or his last, one of the things he said is it was going to be the biggest story yet.
You know how people are going to react to this. They're going to say the tinfoil hat people think the government killed this journalist by taking over his car, doing something to his car, and the other people are going to say, so there are people who are going to say that's nuts.
Oh yeah, nobody. The government never kills journalists. No.
I mean, I can understand both viewpoints, but like I said, he's not someone that would be driving around erratically like that in the middle of the night. That just wasn't how he was. So that just leaves a lot of questions and a lot of digging that need to be brought up and answered. I'm not going to speculate and say I think anything, because that's just going to make me look crazy.
Well, no one wants that. We just want answers. And it was
no one wants
because,
that. Asking questions
official Richard Clark
is now basically a crime in this country. And that's why they can disappear your neighbors. And people will say, I'm not going to be kooky, don't know where the Joneses went. This is how Nazi Germany happens right now. I mean, they are killing journalists all over the place, constantly now. And, I mean, they've had the troops pull up in Baghdad and with tanks attack the Reuters floor of a building under orders. Of course they killed him. They blew his car sky high. It was a car bomb. By the way, folks, we're going to have some breaking news on the Michael Hastings. Very suspicious. 98% chance they blow him up. I mean, I said if it comes out that he's doing a big story, if it comes out that he was on the run, if it comes out the car blew up, and people are like, no, it blew up. This is on Wednesday morning, right after it had happened on Tuesday. And it hadn't gotten any coverage the first day it happened, and it just fits the total MO. So we're going to be getting into that. Roman V. Yampolskiy, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He's been on the broadcast before, is a computer engineering and computer science professor, and director of cybersecurity lab. And we're going to get into his whole bio and exactly where he works now. He's worked all over the place. And he's the guy that a few years ago started coming out and saying, look, we're going to end up having a Skynet type of scenario here if all of this continues. And now it's all coming true. I mean, here are some of the articles that I've got that we'll be showing TV viewers on the document cam. Forget to take your medication. These pills will tell your doctor. I mean, it just goes on and on with your smart meter watching you in your house and ground penetrating radar. The establishment is putting the architecture of control in so they can control us with the technocracy. What the professor has pointed out is that what's happening here is that the machines could actually do this. And I know I butchered your bio, sir. What's most important for viewers out there to know about you?
I'm a computer science professor. I do research in artificial intelligence and security. That's pretty much what they need to know.
And I know you've worked at quite a few universities. Currently, where are you a professor?
I'm at the University of Louisville, Department of Computer Engineering, Computer Science.
So the same place when we had you on last time?
Yep.
Wow. I mean, since you wrote about that a few years ago, it's really become a bigger issue. And we hear about all these backdoor chips and things. What do you think about what the establishment has decided to do with the architecture of the technotronic state?
Are you asking me if there are backdoors in majority of technology?
Sure. I mean, what is your view of the design, the overall design of the technological system being put in?
Can you be a little more specific about which aspects you...
Sure. I mean, look, the entire grid is being built so they can spy on us and control us and remote control our cars, everything else. This looks like it's tailor-made for an artificial intelligence to be able to take over.
It does require something capable of processing massive data, big data as we know it. It's not possible for a human being to monitor all the databases, all the sensors, so it definitely would require some sort of intelligent technology. As far as is it specifically built for this purpose, or is it just a side effect of having more and more technology in our lives? I'm not really sure about that.
Again, Professor Yampolskiy is our guest. This is just a short segment. We'll get more into detail in the next segment. If people want to check out your work, what is the best place to go to? Louisville.edu, and then just go to the computer engineering and science program that you head up?
Just Google my name, Roman Yampolskiy. I'm sure you can put it up on the screen. Also, my new book, Artificial Superintelligence, A Futuristic Approach. First hit on Google. Just look for that. That's what I wanted to get you on about today. And then I've been so sideswiped by all this Hastings news coming out. But let's briefly speak about that. The former head of national security, Richard Clark, has said these new cars can be taken over and remote controlled. DARPA admits that. And some are saying he may have been remote controlled and run into the tree. I'm not even saying that's what happened.
it looks like a car bomb to me. My issue is that shows how our society is being taken over.
You can definitely have ways to hack medical devices, self-driving cars, anything which is autonomous can be hacked and compromised and taken over in principle.
I just have a feeling of dread about what's going to happen with all this going in.
It is dangerous, but this is exactly where my research comes in. I'm trying to make those systems safer, more secure, combining security and artificial intelligence in one area of research.
Well, I know you're a leading expert who really isn't even negative. You just go from a more realistic angle than somebody like Ray Kurzweil that just says, it's going to be wonderful, heaven, we're going to live forever, there'll be no problems, put the robots in charge now, I'm going to be God. And that's a quote. I don't believe in God yet, I'm going to be God. We're going to come back, sir, and talk about your new book, which I need to get and read, and talk about real scenarios of what we could face if we don't get control of this technological development. All this and more straight ahead. I'm Alex Jones, your host. Our site is Infowars.com. Stay with us. We're back live, ladies and gentlemen, and we are talking to a professor who is breaking down exactly what he believes from his deep research we're facing. Professor, continuing here today, talk about your book. Talk about, the wide-ranging situation that we're dealing with.
So the book really is about what the future of artificial intelligence is going to bring. Most people agree that in the next 20 to maybe 100 years, we're going to see something developed on the level of human intelligence. How is that going to change society? How is that going to impact all of us? My book aims to make sure that the humanity is going to benefit from this technology, not get hurt in some really significant way. So that's essentially the main theme of the book. It discusses ways we can make those technologies safer, hack-proof them, make them serve common people.
Break down for the common person out there exactly the type of scenarios that could unfold and have already unfolded with these systems.
So if you realize the number of different jobs we have outsourced to artificial intelligence systems, they can already control nuclear power plants, airlines, stock trading. Essentially, anything of significance is not done by people anymore. And this trend only gets more and more severe. At some point, we'll have computers controlling everything. And if there is a bug in a system, or if an enemy hacks into the system, this could have devastating effects on the whole society.
And of course, that really, from my research, has been the DARPA plan the whole time. Get the whole world to adopt this system, build back doors into it. The West then builds the giant cybersecurity commands to offensively take over the world, Professor, and then build the back doors in to where they can use it to suppress and track the general public and even predict the future of mass movements. That's basically, from my research, what the Pentagon admits they're doing.
I am not familiar with any insider plans. I can notice things like NSA distributing cryptographic algorithms, which seems like a counterintuitive thing since they're trying to break those. So if there was a backdoor in their hashing algorithm, for example, I wouldn't be surprised.
Professor Yampolskiy is our guest, and you can find out more about him by checking out his book, and we'll put a screenshot up on the screen for people that are watching us on television so they can get the name of that book. It's Artificial Superintelligence, a Futuristic Approach, and you can actually see one of the professor's interviews with us right there, Skynet Rising, the AI threat to humanity exists. My issue is, are you more concerned about breakdowns in the system or governments using these to dominate, or an actual AI type artificially aware system coming online and then that decides to take us out like Terminator?
All of the above. My job is to make sure everybody's safe, so I can't ignore any opportunities, any options. It's easier to study and easier to justify scenarios where someone is hacking into the system externally, something like a self-aware AI system going crazy is really futuristic. We're not quite at that level yet, but something like a government putting a backdoor to control the system, that's quite realistic. That's standard computer security.
Professor, what do you think of what Ray Kurzweil has to say? Because for me, it's more like a comic book, the way he puts things out, and he admits he's starting really a new religion. And they're saying you'll either merge with the machines or you'll be stepped on like a bug. And they're selling this utopian view. But when I look at the real technological development and what the establishment says they're really building, it's more in line with something like Elysium, the new movie coming out with Matt Damon.
Kurzweil is probably the world's #1 expert in that field. I mean, he's amazing at predicting what future of technology is going to be. He precisely predicted the year a computer will defeat a human chess champion. He predicted a lot of other technologies. He is, in my opinion, somewhat overly optimistic about how beneficial technology will be without spending as much time on possible negative side effects, which I think are just as important. With his recent appointment as head of engineering at Google, he definitely has financial resources and other capacity to make a lot of his dreams come true. I wouldn't be surprised if they had a very successful AI program at Google as a result of Ray Kurzweil's work.
But my issue is the technocrats. I've studied who's running this, and they openly say we may just get rid of everybody once this new level of evolution takes place. We're talking about genocide here and people playing God, and I don't think the public is even aware that Ray Kurzweil is able to predict a lot of what's coming in the future because he's an insider and kind of their front man. He's obviously a very smart, a big inventor. He is basically the public face of what they're planning to do, is my point. I mean, I'm not even an engineer. I go off of what they say they're going to do. And so that's why he knows so much about the goals. I mean, he wants a technocratic world government run by an AI supercomputer where we're reportedly going to be given eternal life by giving up our humanity and merging with machines. Sounds like a nightmare to me.
Well, even according to Kurzweil, it's not going to happen until 2045. What's going to happen more in the near future is actually beneficial improvements. For example, people with disabilities might get their abilities back. Blind people would be able to see, paralyzed people able to walk. We're already starting to see a lot of this. So there is a lot of benefit to this technology. Of course, like any technology, it can be abused by governments, develop super soldiers, all sorts of things. But it's important not to cast all of technology, all of progress as bad. There is definitely a very significant benefit all of us can gain from those techniques.
What about the general public with lowered IQs, lower intelligence? They're calling it basically computer fog. The language is already shrinking. People are already having their brains rewired at a young age in a bad way. I mean, Alzheimer's connected to TV watching. I mean, I really see a lot of what computers are doing is dehumanizing us and hurting us. It's not really doing what Ray Kurzweil said.
There is a lot of negative side effects, and especially with kids, I'm personally very concerned about putting robots in a classroom because those things are not tested. We don't know if we're going to get a whole generation of children with autism as a result, how it impacts their ability to judge body language. So it is definitely something to look into and have review boards. We shouldn't just push this new technology on kids. That being said, again, we are using technology right now for this interview. There are clearly awesome benefits to technology if it's used properly. So the important part is to strike this balance between the dangers of technology and amazing benefits. As far as this divide between people getting dumber if they abuse technology and others getting too much power because they have access to technology, it seems that the pattern is for technology to get cheaper exponentially, so more and more people who are not rich necessarily get access to top-notch technology. Take cell phones. 20 years ago, only the super rich would have a cell phone. Now everyone has a smartphone. A farmer in Africa would have more information access than the US president had 20 years ago. That's incredible. Even if people are not as well educated, they still have a lot more tools at their disposal. They are better connected. So again, it's a two-edged sword. We need to look at both sides.
Again, my issue is that they're putting all this backdoor tech to spy on us in all the major electronics, and then we're having to pay for this because of this corporate standardization. I'm saying, Professor, I see the architecture of the system being built in a predatory way. That's my concern.
And you might be right. I'm not an expert in that, but the only tool we can use to protect ourselves is yet more technology. If you're saying there is a backdoor in that cryptographic protocol, we need to develop a better open source cryptography to protect people. So we can't turn away from technology. We have to embrace it and take it away from government hands and do it ourselves. Do it better.
Let me ask you this, Professor. Do you, in your gut, do you think humanity is going to make it, or do you think we're going to destroy ourselves?
I think we're going to make it. We might change ourselves in the process. Not quite as radically as what Ray Kurzweil might suggest with cyborgs, but we're definitely going to come to rely on technology a lot more. Our education system will change from memorizing information to learning how to search for information. We'll really learn to use robots and computers a lot more as tools and assistants for our everyday life. So really in many high complexity occupations, we'll see robot-human teams working together, a doctor controlling a robot surgeon or something like that.
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of positive things there, but the globalists don't want the poor people to have access to this revolution. That's why they plan to set up a world government, forcibly reduce world population, and then go forward into the next age of man, as they call it. I mean, take Foxconn, run by the liberal trendies who are really authoritarian monsters of Apple, with Al Gore on their board. They have the most oppressive factory subcontractors and demand the highest dehumanization programs available, and then the suicide nets. And so many people commit suicide, and they drug them and do forced abortions at the Foxconn, reportedly, that now they've just ordered, as you know, millions of robots and are now replacing the humans with them. So I don't see that nexus point meeting where we bring in robots and then we just do more advanced things. Instead, we just get killed. And I think that's the path that's been chosen. And Ray Kurzweil's not going to tell people that, but that's actually in the deeper literature. And Bill Joy wrote about this back in about 13 years ago, you know, the head of Sun Microsystems, for those that don't know, in Why the Future Doesn't Need Us article. And he said he talked to colleagues, and do we keep people alive and just let them play games all day, or do we get rid of people? And most of them said, let's get rid of everybody. So, I mean, I don't know. I think that might be something we should talk about.
It is, and it's exactly what my book is about. That's exactly the questions it raises. What can we do to make sure that we are needed in the future? How can we make sure that those technologies are not given too much power? That's exactly my concern. Well,
when I heard about your book, I wanted to get you on. I didn't know that it's not out yet, and I really want to support it. And you need people's support to get it out. Artificial Superintelligence, a futuristic approach. And how do people make sure that the book gets out?
So it's a crowdfunding campaign. I'm making it open to everyone. They can contribute. In fact, there is an option to become a contributor to the book. Just Google it, Google the title of the book. It's an Indiegogo, which is a crowdfunding site. And you can contribute as a supporter. You can pay towards proofreading of the book. The more contributions we get, the sooner we'll be able to release the book, the cheaper it would be to print multiple copies. Essentially, I'm looking for a lot of input from top researchers. I already collaborated with quite a few people. You can see on the website exactly with whom. But I attend all the top conferences in the field. I present at all the top workshops. I really know what the state of the art is.
I know. That's why we get you on, and that's why I guess...
I spent the summer working with Ray Kurzweil at Singularity University. I know exactly what their process is. I work with people criticizing him. I work with people admiring him. I really try to come as an impartial scientist and disregard the political aspect of it, but find technical solutions to the problem.
Sure. I didn't even know that you've worked with Ray Kurzweil, and I know you've written several other books. But again, I don't want to sit here and judge Ray Kurzweil and say he's a bad guy. It's just that he's always promoting world government and pushing all this. And I recognize the stuff he's pushing. I was reading about 100 years ago from the Fabian Socialist and their plan for the world. And you got to hand it to them. They wanted to discover what made humans tick. They went out and found out DNA. But then you see, the type of stuff Watson that discovered it says. And I just know it's eugenics-based. And in the 40s, after World War II, the eugenicists remade themselves as transhumanists. And I just know that there's a very arrogant, anti-human bent in these people, and they've decided we're junk, and they've decided they're going to decide our course. I just think the public should have a debate about this, and that's what I like about you, Professor, is that you're trying to have that debate.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I talk to people all the time. I just had a lecture to high school students who are considering computer science, and those are the questions I mentioned to them. They're going to decide our future. They're going to be the ones designing those systems. What type of moral values do they put in robots and military robots? What can a drone do? Are they autonomous? Are they requiring human supervision? Can we have a politician who is a robot? There are lots of questions we need to debate as society, and those are not easy questions.
Roman Yampolskiy is our guest here today. I've been asking a lot of questions, Professor. What are points that you'd like to make that we haven't gotten to yet?
I definitely want to give opportunity to all your listeners to participate in a project. They can follow me on Twitter, Facebook. I post constant updates about the project, how it's going. I'm always looking for talented students to join the lab, so that's another opportunity if any students are interested in doing a PhD, master's thesis in my cybersecurity lab. As far as the topics, again, we tend to concentrate on what our biases, our background leads us to. Some people see it as it's going to kill everyone. Some see it as a heaven and immortality. We need to realize that reality is going to be somewhere in the middle. We're going to use those technologies to benefit us, and if we're smart enough, we're not going to end up in an existential catastrophe of some kind where we'll have a Terminator-like scenario. Ideally, we'll manage to avoid that.
But exactly. But if they've got 30,000 drones last time I checked of the Predator and Reaper class, and they're moving the troops to robots, I mean, you can already see the plan to make us obsolete. That's my point, is that the major corporations do not have a good view, and currently, I believe, from the evidence, we're on a very bad path. That's my point.
There's a lot of common sense things I can agree with you on. Definitely it's dangerous, definitely it needs to be looked upon. There needs to be oversight, not necessarily government oversight, but research oversight. We have research review boards for medicine, for nuclear, for chemical weapons, bioweapons. We need something similar for projects related to nanotechnology, synthetic biology, artificial intelligence, robotics. Not any type of research should be fully funded by the government where nobody knows what the outcome of it is going to be.
And now you sound like President Eisenhower. I want to come back and talk about the NSA and the fact that any engineer that works in telecommunications tells you these spy hubs are there. So, I mean, I know you're non-political, but I want to get your take on the NSA. And when you talk about synthetic biology, that's really, from what I've seen, where they're going. We'll talk about it all with the Professor Yampolskiy on the other side. I'm Alex Jones. We're going back to Professor Yampolskiy here in a moment. Then I will continue with phone calls that are holding. We start the next hour and a bunch of news we haven't gotten to yet. And then we have one of the friends of Mr. Hastings joining us who got the email and can give us some very interesting information. Coming up in about 40 minutes from now. In fact, when I was out there 20 minutes ago, that was being confirmed. That's nailed down, correct? Okay, it's totally nailed. Okay, well, we'll believe it when we see it. But this should be big. Good job, guys. Briefly, efoodsdirect.com/Alex is where you can find the biggest special I've ever seen them do. Free shipping. And when you buy 3, you get 1 free of any of their huge line of the best storable foods on the planet. And if you're not storing food, if you're not having backups, you're crazy. with all the stuff going on in the world. efoodsdirect.com/Alex or 800-409-5633, 800-409-5633, or follow the banners on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Free shipping. It's only going for another 5 days till the end of the month. And also buy 3, get 1 free. Just amazing deal. And lastly, InfidelBodyArmor.com. Amazing body armor. Chromatic or ceramic only stops 6 rounds on average. This stops hundreds from AK-47 up to .308 and more. InfidelBodyArmor.com, and their Patriots, 888-608-6605, 888-608-6605. They've got a lot more than just body armor there. They've got body armor backpacks, a huge line. Check them out, InfidelBodyArmor.com. Going back to the professor, Doctor, we only got a few minutes left here, but specifically looking at the NSA, the fact that they call it national security, that these illegal spy grids, and they are illegal, are in everywhere, and then people are traitors, that he didn't give away our missile secrets, he didn't give away how fast aircraft carriers can cruise, how many knots. He said, hey, they're doing illegal stuff. That's always been protected. What's your view on Snowden?
I mean, I think terrorists always knew with spying in them, so he didn't really tell them anything new, in my opinion. I know bin Laden never used cell phones, never used email, always relied on snail mail, and that's why he was so successful at avoiding capture for years. As far as normal people, I mean, I was raised in Soviet Union. I pretty much assumed government is always spying on you anyway, so also I don't see much of a revelation there. I don't have any political statement to make as to whatever my judgment is in his actions. I just don't see it as something very novel.
By the way, Lindsey Graham has come out and called for reading people's mail now. Just a physical mail. I mean, that's up on Infowars.com. Enemy of freedom, Lindsey Graham says he would support censoring mail for national security purposes. They call it censoring, to dig through your mail. I mean, there is just, and now they're saying Al-Qaeda knows our secrets now. Our government's running Al-Qaeda in Syria, folks. I mean, this is all such a sick joke. Professor, in closing, that's where I see the big advances, is in this synthetic biology. That's what I'm really concerned about.
It could be very, very beneficial. Again, we can get rid of a lot of genetic disorders. We can design much better plants and foods and medicines, but it could also create horrible biological weapons. It could create terrible mutations, which we cannot test for multiple generations of human life. It takes too many years. So they test for a year or two and they release those products. So that could be potentially very, very dangerous.
Wow, you know your stuff, because I've studied it. Yeah, you can have the change in 1 generation, but by 3, it does something completely different. I mean, it is Russian roulette all over the place. I wish your book well. People should go check it out. Artificial Superintelligence, a Futuristic Approach, to help get it published. Thank you so much, Professor. Thank you so much. We'll be right back.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, here's what I'm going to do. People want to talk about every subject you can imagine out there. Frank's listening on 840 AM KCBC. We're going to go to him coming up here in a few minutes. Jim, and you're listening on Infowars.com audio streams. We're going to talk to Bruce. We're going to talk to Eric. We're going to talk to Christopher, because I'm just doing open phones, whatever topic you want to bring up. I already covered this, but, man, I tell you, it is chilling to read these quotes that I saw in an RT article that then we put in an article. Michael Hastings, friend of Michael Hastings, says he was working on biggest story yet about CIA, and we have that Fox News clip. But then in the RT article, and we have this in detail in our article on Infowars.com, Michael Hastings' wife vows to, quote, take down whoever did this. And that's reportedly what Sergeant Joe Biggs told Fox News, Megyn Kelly, that something didn't feel right. And then you have witnesses saying, they heard an explosion, looked like it blew up. The fact that he was saying he was going off the radar, you can't criticize anybody for saying this is suspicious. You can't. You'd have to be crazy not to say it's suspicious, like Pat Tillman. And I talked to his brother pretty soon after it happened, and he wasn't ready to come on the air at that time. My producer talked to him, and then I got handed the phone and got to talk to him. But they were like, we think more happened. We think it's a cover-up. And then it came out. The coroner wouldn't lie, the Army coroner, a colonel, lieutenant colonel, and said he was killed up close with a 3-shot burst in the front of the head. And so, I mean, again, we got criticized then for saying, could this have been some type of assassination? Bare minimum, ladies and gentlemen, they lied about it and said he was charging a machine gun nest. And it was McChrystal involved in that cover-up. But he was working on this big story. They put up this other story that he was investigating Kelly, who might or might not have supposedly, you know, been about to have a relationship or something with Petraeus. It's total distraction, in my view. And the wife of Michael Hastings has come out and said that he was not working on that story. It was the CIA, and it was the biggest thing ever. So we are going to have one of his friends pop in at the bottom of the hour. I'll leave that as a surprise. In the meantime, we're going to go to break here in a moment because this is a short little segment. Come back and go directly to your calls, Jim and Frank and everybody else that I just mentioned earlier. But, you know, they're now in the news telling us, give up all your rights or the terrorist will get you. What about the corrupt interests that run the government? Aren't they the big threat historically? Eisenhower told a university commencement speech, I've read the quote on air, getting back to Eisenhower, that you can have total security, but we'll have to put you in prison, to paraphrase the quote. And that's basically paraphrasing what Thomas Jefferson said and Benjamin Franklin. They all said, those that give up liberty for supposed security deserve and will get neither. You don't ever get security, especially long-term, giving up your rights and becoming dependent. You become a slave. And what we have is a bunch of corporate special interests that want to continue wars. That's why they give the last generation of weapons to all these foreign governments that we develop, like China and Russia and even North Korea got reactors. So then there can be a threat, and we've got to have this big military-industrial complex to fight that. And it just goes on and on and on. And now millions of dollars per city for robots, for non-existent bomb events, and all the movies are about martial law, and now they're using the NSA to go after whistleblowers. I mean, this is unprecedented. It has a name. It's called Organized Crime Takes Over the Government, and the name of that is tyranny. Tyranny. Tyrannus. Maximus is where we're going. The greatest tyranny the world has ever seen. The maximum corruption. Phone calls and a special guest in the third hour, straight ahead. All right, I want to go right to your phone calls for the next two segments. Then we have a special guest who was good friends with Mr. Hastings, who blew up joining us, unfortunately. Very sad. A really good reporter. I mean, that clip where I played yesterday where before he died a few days before, he was on TV and he said, the press has to organize against tyranny. We have to stand up. The government is trying to destroy free press in this country. If the press doesn't stand up for itself, nobody will. And then I'm going to do at least 30 minutes of overdrive today with our guests that are with us for the next 2 days, James Lane and Richard Grove. And they're going to be with us tomorrow in studio as well, because I've kind of moved them into overdrive today. They're down here visiting. They're the makers of the new film that we're pre-selling, and then we're going to premiere on prisonplanet.tv, but the DVD and the Blu-ray of State of Mind, just an amazing film that I'm in, and a bunch of other people even more knowledgeable than I am are. Very, very powerful. We're going to be talking about that some in the next hour. Right now, let's go to Jim in New Hampshire. You're on the air. Welcome, Jim.
Hello, Alex. I love the show, and so I wanted to make a point about the use of encryption, and that we should really be considering this as a way of helping thwart the NSA's spying on domestic spying. I think one of the things that there's actually two technologies out there that I want to quickly mention. One is just encryption in general, which actually, as Snowden mentioned in his question and answer, it's actually a really effective way to prevent someone from intercepting your messages.
Well, don't they? I mean, isn't the best system not even encrypting it yourself, but those systems that slice it up 1,000 different ways and then recombine it on the other end?
Exactly. Yep. There are systems that do that. So I'm a software engineer, so that's my background. And yes, there's a whole bunch of encryption. There's actually different methods of encryption, different systems out there. But basically, I just want the users here to know, start using it, start looking into it, start researching it. Whatever encryption you decide to use, this will help. This will help in that we will have...
Sure, because, I mean, they can still crack it, but they have to sit there and mess with it and put it through different filters. And if there's hundreds of different types of encryption being used, then it's going to gum up their works.
Exactly right. They can still crack it, but, frequently, even the simplest of some of these algorithms can take, years sometimes to crack it, even simple.
But also, you can use things like Start Page and other free search engines, so you're through a proxy, so that you're not just volunteering to go right to the corporate NSA and just give them everything.
And actually, you're making my next point for me. That's exactly what I was going to say. Start Page is a great, anything that hides you from Google and hides you from the powers that be. That's a great place to start. Also, look into peer-to-peer networks. P2P networks use kind of disperse the network traffic around, so you can't track people as easily. But the unfortunate part is we shouldn't really even have to do any of this. We should really, we should be able to communicate without thinking anybody's listening to it.
And again, it's not that you're hiding something. Why do you lick the envelope with snail mail? It's so it doesn't fall out. It's so people don't read it. And it's not that you're hiding something if you're sending your grandmother some photos of a picnic or something, because she asked for them. That's what my grandma was always asking for, is photos of trips and things. She loves photos. She's almost 90 years old. But it's nobody's business. I mean, why do I have walls on my house? Why isn't my house glass? I mean, what do I have to hide? Nothing. I want to be able to walk around, at midnight in my underwear. And I don't think my neighbors want to see that either. I don't look like Kate Upton. So good points. I appreciate you calling in. I better not make Kate Upton jokes. Because, never mind. Let's just go ahead and talk to Eric in Pennsylvania. No, wait. He wasn't next. I apologize. Frank on Obamacare, listening on 840 AM KCBC in Cali. You're on the air, Frank. Thanks for holding.
How you doing? First-time caller, Alex. The first thing, you're the greatest American I've ever known, and my prayers are with you for you and your warriors.
Oh, my goodness. Please, come on.
We have nothing to fear but fear itself. Obamacare, H.R. 3200, 1001, speaks of this implantable chip. It's going to have your name, your phone number, your bank account, your dog's middle name. And
well, let's be technical. It does fund... In Obamacare, it cuts funding for all the surgeries and stuff you need and lets government tell your doctors what to do, and is written by insurance companies to jack up prices and cut quality of care and bring in the death panels, which they now admit they have. But it does fund implantable microchips in the body. And now some say that means they can make it happen, but it does fund it, and it has this hub system that under law forces all your data illegally to give it to all these federal, state, and corporate groups. So it's also a big NSA thing.
Yeah, and another thing, our brains are also on radio waves, so once you get that chip, can't they control our minds too? I mean, it might
to be specific, DARPA admits for about 50 years they can put out different wavelengths that calm people or make them agitated. Just like loud sound can make you agitated, or nails on a chalkboard. But this is different harmonics they have. And there is a lot of that going on. Most of it's classified, but the existence of it is there. And generally, it wouldn't be a chip they put in you to control your mind. They would give you a vaccine that had a synthetic biological nanotech engineered virus, which they already have, that goes in and destroys areas of the cerebral cortex associated with resistance. And they call that the anti-stress vaccine. If you watch the lobotomized biological androids in Disney's The Black Hole, they're not having any anxiety because they've been lobotomized. I mean, if you watch The One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest that accurately shows what a lobotomy's like, these are more of a slight lobotomy. And there's evidence they've already been testing it on the public, where people just can't get upset, but they can still be ordered around and told what to do. But the public's already like that without the brain-eating vaccine, as I dub it. I have a whole video on that. Just Google brain-eating vaccine. They're already like that to a great extent, just from TV and culture. They're taught to shuffle around, just kind of muffling, stumbling through life because they've been spectators their whole life, wired like Plato's allegory of the cave to just watch the images on the wall, not to actually be part of the real world.
Wow. All right, that's it, man. Can I plug a book? Is that possible?
Absolutely. You're on the air, brother. We don't screen your calls.
All right, man. Conspiracy 101. Amazon.com has a list of everything that you need to get started and find out the truth.
Sure. Are you listening to us on 840 AM right now?
You got it, brother.
Well, that's awesome. I thought they were only carrying us on the weekends.
No, they got you 9 to 12, man. And right now, that's all I can afford, and I'm so happy to hear.
Yeah, that's a big station.
Yeah, it's great, man.
Well, I tell you, I mean, it's awesome how many stations put us on the weekend, and then we're weekdays in major cities all over the country, Chicago, San Diego, Dallas. But the problem is, take Orlando. We were on there 1 year. The station went from like number 8 or 9 in the ratings to number 1 with my show. And Mancow before me, they put us both on. And then they just changed formats. And it's like, man, being number 1 on a station up against 50,000 waters, a 10,000 water, and I've done that over and over again. It's like being number 1 is not enough, folks. And I'm not like wanting to beat Rush Limbaugh either. It's just that we destroyed him. And it was in the news. It was in radio magazines that I've gone up against, and I'm not up against Limbaugh on purpose. This was the slot I was offered in 1998. They said, you want to go weekdays on this little network, we're putting you here. That's where we have a slot. And I went up against Rush Limbaugh, and they said yes. And so that's why I'm there. I wanted to be on at nights, quite frankly, because I kind of wake up at night. But I mean, I've been up against Limbaugh toe-to-toe, well, hundreds of times, because, stations come and go over the years. But, I mean, there are at least more than 20 occasions that we have come up to him in the ratings or destroyed him. And, again, I'm not trying to destroy him physically, get him off the air. It's just that I will defeat Rush Limbaugh in the free market of ideas. People like this show more than his, and I'm on a little radio network that's now got 1,400 affiliates. Not my show, but Genesis has 1,400. That's a conservative number, by the way. So we're not a little network. We were a little network. It's the American dream. It's the idea. People want hardcore libertarian patriot news. They want it unvarnished, and they get it here. And I will destroy all the competition if I'm put on a level playing field. In fact, on a stilted playing field, I'll beat them. But I'm never given that chance, because the stations always sell. Thank you so much, Frank. Spread the word to all the 840 listeners. Tell everybody on every station you're listening to us. Tell people to tune into your local AM and FMs right now. Let's go take a quick call here. Bruce in Michigan, you're on the air. Thanks for holding.
Hi, I have 2 practical problems. I wonder if you have answers to them.
Sure, brother. I'll try.
I got a letter in the mail from the Department of Health and Human Services, U.S. Public Health. It's a RTI Project 12800. It says that I've been chosen among 200,000 people randomly by the Research Triangle Institute for a national study on health-related issues. An interviewer will come, I'm reading these 3 paragraphs real quick here, and show you their ID card. Her name is Jill Blondan. It shows a facsimile of the ID card. You do not have to participate in this, but then it says in great big black writing here, every person who chooses to complete the interview will receive $30 in cash. All the information is confidential, assured by federal law, blah, 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 blah. I wonder, what the heck is this thing? Should I just keep them out of the house?
What this is, and the people involved in it don't even know this, but RAND corporations put out the plans, others have put out similar plans. They're sending now monthly censuses to some businesses, yearly to everybody else. It's not every decade. It's hundreds of questions. How many guns? How many toilets? I'm going to come back to you and finish answering your other question. But they've got all these corporations, too, just where you're constantly having your door knocked on. You're constantly, we're here to talk to you. We're here to, and then they file it and send it off to the feds. And then they integrate it into databases. So it's called HUMET, Human Intelligence. The CIA now is operating domestically as well, and they're just training you to have people in your business 24/7. This is acclamation. Yeah, the truth is they call it services, And they send you letters, and all these different agencies do, just trying to scare you into answering all their questions. And they've got all these private corporations going around, and now they've got FEMA Corps, these young college and high school students that can't get jobs, paid, in many cases, coming to your door, asking you creepy questions, then going back and reporting to the cops on you. I mean, they've got the doctors in the public schools on record asking the kids, what guns do your parents have? That's in the news again today. Every authoritarianism that we've seen around the world is coming here. And you know we do it bigger and better in America. Boy, let me tell you. But I don't know the particular group you're talking about. It rings a little bit of a bell. Most of these people are literally just doing a job contracted by the government, as that letter said, and that they think they're out helping people. But sometimes, though, they send another group to go match up people that are on disability or other issues to see if you've been telling the truth. And the person coming to interview you doesn't even know why they're coming. They're compartmentalized. In fact, most cases they are. So as a rule, I don't talk to anybody. Police come to my door and they say, open the door. I'll say, what's it about? And then if they say, we believe there's a robber in the area, have you seen anybody? And I'll say, nope, I have a good day. Now, if they say your dog's running down the street, I'll say, oh, well, thank you, and open the door. If bureaucrats come here, I'm Secret Service, FBI, I just say, I'm not talking to you. You guys have such a history of lying and setting people up. Well, is this true or is this not true? I'm not talking to you. In fact, I've actually before to the FBI said, see my hand? Talk to it. Well, we're going to get a subpoena. Bring it. Talk to my hand. Then I go, hey, you know, the government ships in the narcotics, and I follow them out to their car. And I stand there as they get in the car and drive off, and I'm just like, take some cancer viruses. Government loves you. Because the big lie is I know they're probably good guys. The point is I don't care. I'm done. I'm not playing games. I'm not going to play games with the system anymore. I'm not going to play patty cake anymore. I know the people running it at the top are a bunch of offshore mega banks that folks are stealing Europeans' pension funds that they paid for, private and public. I know that the people who work for the government now are going to have their way of life destroyed as well. So I'm a little bit angry at them, that they're victims too, and they're acting all high and mighty to me, when all I do is study this. I know what I'm talking about. I can have top professors on from any discipline, and I know the basics of it, and they're always blown away by it. Not because I'm even that smart. I decided to become an expert on the world. Doesn't mean I don't make a lot of mistakes either, but I try, instead of an expert on football, or an expert on how to act cool at a party with the guys, or an expert on how to pick women up, or an expert on how to go on the best vacations. I decided my life was going to mean something. And I was going to really try to figure out how the universe works from my limited temporal perspective. And I've done it. And I've made a difference. And I'm nobody. I know there are people out there a lot better than I am. A lot of you are. I want you to dare to fight tyranny. I want you to dare to stand up. I want you to get the new issue of the magazine that has 10 bumper stickers in it. You can buy the magazine, the new July issue at InfoWarsStore.com. I want to change the world for good. I don't want to just sit here and take it. Does that answer your question, Bruce?
I think I shouldn't give them an earful, but just say, no, thank you. And
oh, no, if you give them an earful, if it's a bad group, and I don't know this group you mentioned, then they'll come down on you even harder. It's best to, you have the intel, you give them no intel. You don't give them anything, and then you move. And I don't mean you physically move. It's all about movement is life. Movement is survival. And so it's always be changing, always be doing new things. And don't give them power. If people ever show up acting powerful, they'll try to menace you into groveling, and then that, at like a dog-like level, empowers them to then abuse you. If you are very firm and very serious with people and tell them you need to move on to a softer target, predators will move on to someone who's a victim. And I'm not saying push them off on the next poor sap. Try to get other people around you to not be victims. That's what this broadcast is really all about. People always ask me, what is it at its heart? I don't want to be a victim. I don't want you to be a victim. I want you to live good. I want to build a civilization, whether you live in Mexico or Germany, whether you live in Japan or South Africa, whether you're black or white, I don't care. I want you to be empowered. But when you're not empowered and you're programmed by the globalist, you become my enemy because you are following their programming. So that's it. You either join the human team or you're my enemy. Because you are my enemy. They're coming after us. And I refuse to buy their propaganda. I've broken with them. You understand, folks? And that's a process. I'm breaking with the New World Order more every day. That's how we have victory. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. We have somebody who has courage on the line. He's told the press that everybody else got the blind copy email, the close friends of the associate editor of Rolling Stone, Michael Hastings, everybody that got the email where he was basically panicked, saying, I'm going under the radar. I'm going into hiding, basically. They may raid our offices. They're coming and talking to friends and family, which has been confirmed, and the FBI has been saying they didn't. That's really creepy. And then his car blows up, and from a lot of the military experts we've had on, they say it looks like a car bomb. You get the former national security advisor to 3 administrations. Richard Clark comes out and says, well, there is remote controlling of these high-tech cars. Well, that's well known. DARPA has come out and said that's the case. But if you don't look at this as foul play, then there's something wrong with you. I mean, you could say, perhaps this really happened. But to say, don't look at it, when day one I came out and said to everybody that, hey, we should look at this. I said, I don't know, that Wednesday after it happened, the day after. I said, I don't know. But if he was working on a big story, a lot of governments go after people. Private corporations go after people. Journalists have always been targeted for hundreds of years. So to say, oh, it's ridiculous, nobody's been targeted, when I've known journalists, like Pulitzer Prize winner Gary Webb, they shot twice in the head. And he said he was getting death threats and that he wouldn't kill himself on my show, and they killed him. The D.C. Madam, same thing. And so this man has a lot of courage. Staff Sergeant Joe Biggs told Fox News' Megyn Kelly that something didn't feel right. And he went on in a RT article that we have on Infowars.com, Michael Hastings' wife vows to take down whoever did this. That's a quote. That's pretty bombshell. So he joins us now, and I think the best place to start was who Michael Hastings was, how Staff Sergeant Biggs points out in the quotes here that, hey, if this happened to me, Michael Hastings would be sticking up and investigating for me. And that everybody else is too scared to talk. Wow. So wherever you'd like to start, sir, I appreciate you coming on.
Well, thanks for having me on.
You bet. You've got the floor. I mean, tell us whatever you think you should get across to people.
All right. Well, like you said, back in 2008, I was deployed in Coast Province in Afghanistan. And my commander pulled me into his office, and he's like, well, we're going to have 2 embedded journalists, a photographer and a journalist, and they're going to follow you around for the next week or so. The next week or so turned into almost about 3 months, and you get to learn a lot about a person in 1 day of combat, let alone 3 months of being around them. This was his first time in that kind of a situation, too, if I'm not mistaken, actually in Afghanistan doing that. And I was telling people, they were like, well, how was Michael? I was like, he was a fearless guy. I mean, I can remember one day in particular, right around the Pakistan border, we were being ambushed. And as the firefight's going over, I'm looking on, or look over to Michael, and he's looking up. He's like, is it over yet? He's like, is there more? And, like, he just looked excited, like he loved his job. And there wasn't a thing to scare him. So when this email comes to me, and well, from 2008 on, him and I would talk all the time. He would ask me how I was doing, how, I was telling him I was having nightmares, I was coming back, I was dealing with a lot of stuff with, some deaths of people over there, and it was just a hard time. And Mike was one of the guys that called me up from time to time and check on me. So we built a pretty strong relationship in that sense. And from time to time, he would email me and tell me about stories he was working on and ask me what I thought about this, if he ever wrote about something that had to do with the military. I remember when the story broke on General McChrystal, he gave me a call, and he's like, man, I'm pretty scared, and, I told him, I was like, you got every reason to be, brother. I was like, you just basically got a general of a war fired. I'm pretty sure that doesn't sit too well with him right now. And he went on to just share concerns about how, you know, he knew there was probably a chance that people would be looking into him, and I completely understand that. So last Monday morning, I wake up and I get this email from Mike, and usually the emails start off with, hey, brother, how's it going? You know, how's your family? How are you adjusting to civilian life because I'm out of the military now? This time it was just that. Everyone has the email because I released it, you know, saying that he believed the FBI was going to be investigating his colleagues and close friends, and it just didn't seem like something that he normally started the email off with. And when I read it, I just got this horrible feeling. I was like, something's not right. I immediately called him, and I didn't get an answer. I was like, well, he's probably busy. So I go to school and try to brush it off. I told a few of my friends, I was like, you know, what do you think about this? I don't think something's right. You know, what if a friend sent you this email? How would you react? Why was there an investigative reporter happened to be filming with his dash cam right as Michael drove by? I mean, who's out filming an empty street at 4 something in the morning? I mean, all these alarms were going off, and my gut feeling from day one, from before it happened, I knew that something wasn't right. There's too many things that added up. And
did Afghanistan and all those years of combat, did that hone your gut instinct?
Yeah. Just anybody, if you know someone and they act out of reason, out of like their normal behavior, you know, that should go off on, that should send a red light off to anybody with, you know, that's had a close friend. Let's talk about, and then all the points you want to get into, but let's talk about why you decided to go public. You talked about the rest of the people that were sent the email as close friends and family like yourself are scared. And I know you've had a chance to talk to some of them. Describe how they're scared. And then there's the FBI denying he sent emails and stuff. Meanwhile, you know there was an email, so I guess that's why you released it. Or correct me if I'm wrong. But let's get into, they're too scared to release an email that the FBI may raid us and they're talking to my friends and family. He wouldn't lie about that. And then meanwhile, I'm going off the radar. I'm going into hiding. Wow. I mean, I hope I don't say, I'm going into hiding. Look out. And then my car blows up. I mean, wow. Yeah. I actually emailed some of the people that were on that he sent the names on the email to, some of the people at BuzzFeed. And I said, hey, did you guys get that email? Now he's dead. Does anybody else think this weird? I got one response back, yeah. And I go, yeah, question mark, question mark, question mark. That's it. And I waited 5 minutes. And I mean, 5 minutes, you know, after your friend died seems like an eternity. And no one's saying anything. And I'm getting on the internet and I'm like, all right, somebody's got to come out and say something. Someone's got to, I can't be the only person that thinks this is just weird. So I asked my mom, asked some people, and they're like, well, what, you know, I was like, what should I do? And everyone's like, man, that's some scary stuff to get into. And I just sat there for a minute and basically said, F it, I'm just going to do it. And Mike would do the same thing for me. He's not going to sit back and roll over. And, you know, I'm not a journalist. I'm not an investigator. I don't know what steps to take. All I know is I lost a friend. I'm pissed off. I want to find out what happened. And like I told his wife and some of his other friends, I'm going to do whatever the hell I got to do to figure this out. And if at the end of the day it turns out to be an accident, then whatever. But right now, things don't add up to be that way. There's too many unanswered questions that need to be, there's too many just...
Sure. Well, let me tell you when you're really going to wake up. I've been physically attacked by the shadow government. I've been threatened. I've seen amazing things. And so many times, that's why we've got to engage in investigative journalists and investigative journalism, is so you'll find out for yourself how corrupt things have gotten. I mean, look at the NSA being used against the Associated Press. Look at pro-life groups and Tea Parties being harassed by the IRS. I mean, this government is out of control. It's been persecuting journalists and whistleblowers like no other president before them. And so it's not a stretch to say, hey, he's got the biggest story ever. Tell us about that. I mean, that's in the email. And he also reportedly told his wife that. But specifically, give us what info you have, Staff Sergeant Joseph Biggs here joining us in an in-depth interview, not just sound bites on Fox News. I mean, for me, that's big, too, that I'm on this big story. The FBI is probably going to raid us. They're questioning people. I'm going into hiding. Boom!
Yeah, like I said, just that, all that leading up, that email and that happening, and just that, there's too many. He was on edge. I mean, everyone that knew him was agreeing the days leading up, he was very on edge. And like you said, in the subject line mentioning the NSA and the thought that the FBI was questioning his friends and associates, that alone makes his death soon afterwards suspicious.
Let me say this. Let me say this while I have you. I'm begging you to get a hold of his wife, who you know. And believe me, I've studied this. I can put her in contact with national security whistleblowers and people that have really fought the system and won. Whatever she knows the investigation was, she's either got to tell the government, call the FBI, and say, I'm never going to talk about this, or she's got to go public with all of it. And the safest thing is to go public immediately. Do you have any idea what it was dealing with the CIA that he said was the biggest thing he'd ever had?
That's all she knew. She didn't know anything else. She told me. She said, Mike would not tell me anything. She said, you know, basically, from the sound of that, would just be for her own protection.
Yeah, of course.
I spoke to her at the memorial service, this past Saturday. A buddy of mine called me and said, hey, there's a plane leaving in 2 hours. Let's go up there to the service. So I hopped on and flew up to Vermont and stayed at a hotel up there, and then went and saw his wife and family and all of them. And, you know, she pretty much came out and said that he wouldn't tell her anything at all. So I don't think you're going to get anything out of her in that sense.
Well, that's good for her. That's good for her, because if he told any other colleagues anything, they're all under NSA surveillance, and if this was a hit, which my gut and all evidence says it was, there's going to be more deaths on this.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't be lying. I'd be lying to you if I wouldn't say I wasn't checking my car every damn day, I'll tell you that.
Well, that's because you've lived in the real world. I feel sorry for the sheep out there that don't realize that, you know, the press is under attack. Did you see him on the Young Turks shortly before he died, Mr. Hastings?
Yeah, I was just watching that last night.
And he said, we declare war on this corrupt system that's declared war on the press. The press has to stand up together. And they were afraid of that Colonel Travis type attitude. I'm telling you, they were scared of him.
Well, Michael wrote in one of his books and on Reddit that he had been told, if we don't like what you write, we'll hunt you down and kill you. So, I mean, that's, you know, for him to say something like that, those are his own words. That's pretty intense.
I haven't read the books, but obviously I need to look him up. You know which one of his books?
I can get back to you on that one. I mean, that'd be
I'll search
easy.
it. Guys, search Hastings books. There's the Operators, and there's one other. I read part of the Operators online.
Yeah, I'm in the Operators. I don't think it's in that one.
Yeah, no, I've been... Listen. It's people that haven't gone through this just don't know. I mean, I've had him call up, tell me what I was talking about on the phone just so I know who it is, and then threaten me. I mean, this country is just in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I agree.
Listen.
With the interview yesterday, though, with Megyn Kelly, I was pretty upset because I was asked that, you know, some topics I wanted to go over, and as soon as I got there, it was just kind of bing, bang, boom. She kind of didn't really give me a chance to, you know, discuss them.
Well, sir, you've got that chance now. What are the points you want to make here?
Well, you know, like I said, I'm no journalist, and I don't know how to go about all this stuff. But, I mean, I reached out to Mercedes-Benz and wrote an email, and I don't know how often they're able to get something like this. But, I mean, one of the things that you need to find out is how often in wrecks with Mercedes, and on top of this, let's remember Mercedes is one of the safest types of cars there is, especially nowadays, that an engine, you know, comes out. And looking at the fire from that, I've been blown up in Iraq and Afghanistan and completely engulfed in flames, but it never looked that bright. I mean, it never looked that big. And I can tell you from firsthand experience from surviving IED explosions. It was never at that magnitude that car just, spontaneously, just explodes from hitting a tree.
Yeah, I've been told it looks like 5 to 8 pounds of plastic explosive, probably underneath the car, right where he was sitting, or in the dashboard. And they debate whether it was 30 yards up to 50 yards or longer that it shot this.
I've heard up to 100, and another thing is the eyewitness saying that they saw sparks before the impact, and then another person inside their house said that it sounded like a bomb going off. So, cars hitting trees don't sound like bombs going off.
Well, plus, I've seen the photos, Staff Sergeant. It looks like it came to rest up against a tree. The witnesses said it blew up in the street and jackknifed, and then basically then was thrown into a tree.
Yeah, well, that's what I think as well. I was talking to one of my buddies earlier. The way the engine's lying, it had to have come out before even being near that tree. I mean, the car's not going to hit a tree, and then the engine, it would have been some kind of mark where the engine had, ricocheted off the tree and gone in some direction. Instead, it, in the same direction of travel before this,
Yeah, that's right. The car, according to 3 witnesses, blows up in the street. The engine flies out the front down the road. Then it comes to rest up against a tree. If it hit on the side and the engine broke off, which, according to engineers, they say they're so bolted to that frame, it'd be incredibly hard to even break it loose. It would have shot through the fence into the person's house, not the opposite direction down the road.
Yeah. Well, we definitely need an independent expert investigation. And I'd love to try to get find the person arrested and have it examined by someone. That'd be fantastic on all ends, because I really don't trust the LAPD to be making some sound decisions on something like that. I mean, how do you rule out foul play in a matter of hours?
Yeah, absolutely, sir. And then Breitbart, they announced he died of a heart attack 45 minutes after he was at the hospital. That's never done. The coroner wasn't even there. And then the guy that did the coroner examination died of poisoning a month later. I mean, come on, folks. This is getting insane. Now, expanding on this, when did you talk to his wife? I mean, was it at the funeral or via email? Was it the memorial or via email where she said that I'm going to take down whoever did this?
She, when we were at the service, she pulled me aside and talked to me, and she was like, thanks for having, basically the courage to do this and trying to help out. And she's like, I'm definitely... she's basically the way she said it, she's like, I'm going to do what I can to look into this with everything I got. And, when she did it, she put her hand on me and she just gave me this look. And I mean, she looked like a pit bull, like she is protecting the person she loves more than anything, and she's pissed off. And it was the hardest thing for me to see, just because you could see how bad she was torn up. And it was a horrible... Just to see that, that man was loved by so many people. He was a great guy. A lot of people hated him when that story with McChrystal broke. They hated him. But I tell you right now, for the soldiers, I got much respect for that man. I respected the hell out of him. He spoke the truth, and he wasn't afraid to tell anybody that. And if they lied, he'd call them out. Why all of a sudden is it wrong to be truthful and not stick up for what's right?
There was a gentleman went by the name Colonel Six out of Dallas, African-American member of the military, and he would send me all this great info and said McChrystal's going to go down soon and stuff. And then about 6 months later, he did. And then Colonel Six said, I've got intel I'm going to give you. This is on record. And then it was in the news the next week. He committed suicide in Fort Worth. And it turned out he was everybody he said he was. Colonel Six was his nickname. And people can look up the guy's full name and everything, but it's just so many people. And I'm not trying to scare people for the globalist. I want people to understand, though, you've had a lot of military investigators killed that investigate missing money. There's so many examples of this, and we need to stand for the free press in the memory of Michael Hastings. And I'll say this, I didn't really know I knew who he was, but I didn't know if I really respected him totally or not, because I wasn't sure until I saw interviews he did about the NSA, and saying, we've got to come together, the government's coming after us, they're thugs, this is illegal, we've got to organize, for American freedom. It was so powerful, and then I saw other interviews, and it seemed in the weeks, because then I went back and watched more, I went and watched interviews from a year ago. 6 months ago, they weren't the same. 2 weeks before he died, he was doing interviews and was energized with he'd discovered incredibly bad things. And I mean, did you notice a change in him in those videos?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, when I was watching last night, I could definitely see a fire under him. He was definitely pretty motivated.
Wouldn't you like to know what he discovered?
Yeah, I do. I mean, we just got to, like I said, slow and steady wins the race. This is something that's not going to be figured out immediately, but I've just got to have patience, and I've reached out to people via Twitter, and a lot of people have really come forward and been willing to help me. I got a guy that lives in L.A. who's pretty much an expert with the FOIAs. He's already sent one to the FBI, and the FBI has already sent back the letter, and he sent me a copy saying that they've received it, and we'll be looking into it.
Well, listen, all you've got to do is this. You've got to start a defense fund on one of the crowdsourcing sites, or just set up a PayPal or something to get the basic money to go out there for like a month. You get his wife to sign a power of attorney to let you get the car. Now, here's the deal. I shouldn't even be announcing this on air. They will try to scrub the car, but if you get there and it's had chemicals, extra chemicals sprayed, it's been scrubbed, still you'll be able to find explosive residue. You've got to get it to independent forensic people. But here's the thing. I got to warn you. Just like they killed the coroner of Breitbart, I believe this was a car bombing. Understand, and you've been in combat, so you're not a wimp. I admire you, and I admire Mr. Hastings. I don't know what I would do in this situation. They will probably try to off whoever goes to try to do samples of that car. I'm telling you, this is serious business. Just like TWA Flight 800, reporters snuck in and got the explosive residue, that it was a U.S. Air Force continuous rod warhead. I had the top general on who blew the whistle, General Parton as well. They arrested the reporters and put them in jail for a long time for breaking into the hangar. So I'm just telling you, this isn't a game, and I know you know that.
Yeah, and like I said before, I'm not making any kind of, I believe this is what really happened right now. Like I said, based off facts, things don't add up right now. So whether he be murdered or it was an accident, I can't rule out the worst that would be him being murdered. I can't rule that out because right now there's no factual proof to disprove that. So
you'd have to be insane to ignore all the things that happened, all the ingredients.
There's gonna be so many people out there that they're just, most people, like you said, they just read their news and drink their coffee and go to work and they're happy, and that's all there is, you know. And they go on about it and come back to their homes or probably being in the white picket fences and everything's all lollygags and happy and all that stuff, but they don't realize that what people go through to really stick up for this country and things like that. And there's a lot of people out there as well that are willing to do whatever they have to do to keep some of their secrets down. So
absolutely. Well, I can only respect your incredible courage, sir, and I'd like to continue to get you on as things unfold. And if you need any help investigating this, if the family wants me to, I'm willing to go to Los Angeles. I mean, I'm committed to this, and if they kill me, I want people to investigate what happened to Alex Jones, just like you're doing for your buddy. You know, I believe that Mr. Hastings is, directly in heaven because God loves people that have courage and God hates cowards. Speaking, if you could talk to Michael right now, Staff Sergeant Biggs, what would you say to him?
That it was amazing to see the amount of people that he affected through his life. I just hope that one day that I'm able to have that much of an impact on people's lives as he did. He was loved by many. He was a fearless man. He was one of the greatest people I've known, and I have unwavering respect for this guy. And like I told his friends and family, I'm not going to sleep on this. I'm committed, and he should know that we're not going to just sit back and roll over, because I know if the roles were reversed, he'd do the same thing for me.
Well, Pat Tillman's brother pushed, and they found out he was murdered.
Yeah.
We've got about
giving up.
Well, God bless you, man. I really respect you, and that's why I say our military is such great people. Even if these wars, many of them are corrupt and wrong, the people that are doing it, got in for the right reasons and have just done things the average public has no idea how hard it is. And Mr. Hastings was in a war for freedom in this country, and he said that. And I just want to commend you for what you're doing, Staff Sergeant. We got about a minute left. Anything else you'd like to add?
Like I said, if anybody has any kind of information or anything like that, I just,
they can contact you, and you guys can get a hold of me, and you can find me on Twitter because everyone has been able to do it recently.
Give us your actual Twitter account.
At RAMBOBIGGS, at Rambo Biggs.
At Rambo Biggs. What are your buddies who I know work in explosives in the military? Do they think it looks suspicious?
I haven't talked to many of them at all right now. Just coming back from the service the other day and being bombarded by so much things, I'm finally today I'm going to get a chance to sit down and just try to make some calls and figure some stuff out.
All right. Well, God bless you, and I'll say bye to you right here at the end. We're going to go into overdrive, folks, everybody out there, so stay with us. But pray for Mr. Biggs, and pray for the wife of Mr. Hastings. Pray for everybody, and pray for those BuzzFeed people who better release the info. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back live, and I was just giving Staff Sergeant Joseph Biggs during that little break at the end of the hour a briefing. I wasn't trying to scare him, and I could tell it was concerning him, but I was telling him in the MO who they tend to use to blow people up in this country. It's the mafia, it's sheep-dipped army units, and they've got the hostage rescue team as the cover for the FBI's Black Ops. And they killed a couple of those guys who were in and around the Boston bombing and threw them out of a helicopter. I mean, this is not a game, and that's why I told him point blank. Even though he's not, you know, he's been around the real world. I was just telling him from my perspective, this is what I know, and a lot of it's been declassified. A lot of it's been declassified, but they have large hit teams in this country who are mainly killing drug dealers and people that don't launder the money through the right bank, or, you know, and that's mainly what they do. I wasn't trying to freak him out either. I just was being honest with him, and I said, listen, they're listening to your phone too. Because, I mean, I just think people need to understand. It's good to know. This isn't a game. This is real. This is going on. And if they blow me up or hang me or whatever, it is baloney. I don't even speed anymore. I've been honest. In the past, I would have a little fun out on an open highway. I don't. I drove home last night below the speed limit. Just because I got kids, you know, I've had kids for years, and I just have gotten used to driving safe. And so if I'm ever driving and they see 100-mile-an-hour wreck, I do not speed anymore. I mean, every once in a while I'll catch myself. If it's a 70-mile-an-hour, I'll catch myself going 75 or something. But, I mean, speed limit's pretty fast at 70 or 75. I guess I'm just getting old or something, trying to drive like a grandma. Actually, one of my grandmothers drove like a bat out of hell, the one that died, Meemaw Patty. But the point is that if there's a high-speed car wreck, I don't speed anymore. It's almost pointless to have a Charger. I don't use drugs other than occasional beer, glass of wine, and a cigar. And I mean, the last tobacco I had was when I smoked a pipe on air to point out that some pipes are illegal in Florida now. So I don't do illegal drugs. I don't do prescription drugs. I don't speed. I don't. They love to kill a hooker and kill you and throw you in bed with them. That's one of their favorite things, or drug you and then put you in bed with a dead hooker. That's one of their favorite tactics. If that ever happens, I don't do that. That's a lie. There's a lot of ways they can kill me. Or if I have a heart attack and they go, oh, he was overweight. Folks, if I'm wearing underwear, folks, I don't look like I'm overweight. When I'm bent over, I've got somewhat of a belly because I've got a long torso. I can swim 5 miles if I had time. I can swim 2 miles, I'm be tired. I can go hike up a 8-mile, mountain and do it again, hours later. I can, jog 3 miles, no problem. I'm not in great shape, but I've had my blood pressure checked, everything. My heart's in great shape. I'm in great shape. And so if I have a heart attack, I'm 39 years old. It's, they killed me. I don't have any heart problems. I've had checkups. I'm fine. I'm healthy. And if they, and I'm telling you, if I die mysteriously, folks, I want everything turned over. I want investigations. I want third-party autopsies. I want, if my car blows up, I want it immediately impounded, and I want it tested for every known explosives residue. And I was telling him that during the break, and he was saying thank you, but I could tell it was bumming him out. I could tell he really liked Michael. And it's also a bummer to know that we have to think about things like this. But we salute Staff Sergeant Joseph Biggs, and we salute everybody else that's standing up for him, and we salute his wife, who said, take down whoever did this. We'll be right back. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are now in overdrive, and tomorrow we'll have these gentlemen during the main show in the noontime hour back in studio with us. They would have been on last hour, but we had Staff Sergeant Joe Biggs on, who, again, was in heavy combat, in vehicles blown up by large bombs, IEDs, and, you know, the engine's blown down the street in the opposite direction of where the car is resting up against a tree. He knows explosives. He's like, this just doesn't fit. Something very serious is going on. This isn't a radio show about entertainment. I mean, sometimes because I'm a human, I joke around and stuff just because I can't stay serious all the time. I've got my life in my hands. I know a lot of people that have been murdered in every big event like this just to cover up other murders. And we're going to have in studio with us today, but also on the nightly news in more detail, and then back tomorrow in studio, two gentlemen, James Lane, of course, who was involved in the film A Noble Lie that we also sell at InfoWarsStore.com, and Richard Grove. And Richard Grove's site is tragedyandhope.com. FreeMindFilms.com is the main site for their films. I'm the exclusive distributor in the first 3 months or so of State of Mind, that when I saw it, I just said, well, I'm going to get behind this. I'm in it. It's got a bunch of people in it. We're going to talk about this film. You can pre-order it now. It ships on the 15th of July. It premieres on PrisonPlanet.tv. And we're going to do a big taping tomorrow. It's actually tomorrow, where we're going to talk about the film beforehand, stop a few times, and talk about parts and developments. And it's going to premiere for PrisonPlanet.tv viewers. I appreciate you guys having us do that. It's going to premiere on the 17th of July, that Wednesday here coming up next month. But it's very important to support independent filmmaking. It's very important to wake your friends and family up. And believe me, this is a very professional film. I'm very honored to be part of it. It's even better because you get better as a filmmakers than their Noble Lie. That was a premiere film that was better than probably what I could do in many cases. So they're just really doing an incredible job with the rest of their team. And you can get the film at State of Mind, The Psychology of Control. And until it sells out, which should be any day now, this is the first 5,000 orders, you can get free the animated film on the history of the Federal Reserve. It's very entertaining, great to wake people up. The American Dream. We'll have to take that down the next few days because we're getting very close to 5,000 of these being sold. So take advantage of that at InfoWarsStore.com or by calling 888-253-3139. I may be able to get a better deal and get more of these and bring the special back, but we got a really good deal on these 10,000 of these, but we sold 5,000 of them and have 5,000 left. And I said, well, let's just offer that. It's such an important film, and we got a really good deal on it. So I said, let's just offer it free. That's what I do. When I get stuff really low priced, then I just give it to you. Because my goal is all about waking people up. That's why the new magazine's out. It has 10 free bumper stickers in the July issue. That's because I want to wake people up. I want to defeat the New World Order. I'm risking my life doing this because I've studied history. I want to make a difference. I want to empower people. Men and women that stand up for justice are what have made everything in our world good that's good. And there's always that struggle. Now, I was talking to James Lane, the founding of Free Minds Films and the director of A Noble Lie, Oklahoma City 95, and The Psychology of Control. And his mission is to alter the information paradigm with hard-hitting exposés of state crimes and cover-ups. And Richard Grove filed for federal whistleblower protection under the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of '02. And we're going to get into that because that ties into the NSA and everything that's happening right now. And he's just done a whole bunch of work. I'm not going to get into his whole bio. You can find out more at tragedyandhope.com. But I've mentioned this. When I start thinking, what you said before you went live here, James, whenever I start thinking about all the people I know that have been murdered, and in many cases, when it's on record they've been murdered, nobody knows who. And then Cop of the Year Terrence Yeaky, and you've interviewed his family. You know, they're in the Noble Lie film. He said the feds are after me to his partner. They pull him over, they torture him, shoot him in the back of the head. Then you interview the cop, Browning, the head of the K-9 unit that I've had on the show, naming FBI that walked in and said, you and your wife are dead if you don't shut up. I mean, I know the real world. And I know that it's a mafia that runs this, and the parallels of Terrence Yakey, Cop of the Year, and him seeing the feds involved in the bombing, first person to respond, and what happened to Michael Hastings. I mean, look, at my gut, they killed him. James Lane talking about that and interjecting with Oklahoma City and the mind control of how we just, oh, our government's the good guys. It's tinfoil hat. They might kill somebody when it's on record they've done this over and over again. And then I want to get Richard Grove's take on this and tie it into his whole whistleblower case. So, gentlemen, good to have you here.
Thank you for having us on, Alex. Yeah, when I heard about the Michael Hastings case, that was the first thing, you know, well, when the information broke that you know, the feds were following him, that's the first thing I think of is Terrence Yakey. And a lot of people would ask us, you know, it's 17 years on, why are you still investigating the Oklahoma City bombing? Why does it matter? Well, because look at this. And if we don't expose these, we don't show people, this continues to happen. This is still a methodology that they will use over and over again. You know, with Terry, he was trying to take some documents to some storage, and he said that the feds were following him. Then that's where they find him dead.
He said, I got to go. The feds are on my tail.
Yeah. And, you know, they declared his death a suicide, you know, and it was very obvious that it wasn't. I mean, he had lacerations. All
it was Vince Foster style.
He had was shot through the top of the head at a far enough distance that it didn't leave powder residue, et cetera.
Yeah, they got back when they did it, yeah.
Right, and this was still whenever the official story was formulating in the public mind, and so they couldn't allow any information to come out at that time. It seems like, you know, well, after the operation has occurred, you know, that's okay. But, you know... Right,
how mad do you think they are that our reporters took over all those Boston bombing press conferences? You know, they shot the guy that knew the Patsy brothers in the top of the head, too.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, that's getting in on the front end of it. This is where, you know, we're trying to expose this stuff.
If they're going to kill me for anything, I think it's that.
Well, this is why your show is so important. I mean, who else is putting this information out, you know? So, yeah, I'm just... I
don't mean to obsess on it. It's just my gut feels the danger level. Yeah. I feel the angel of death flapping around. I mean, you know, it's...
Yeah, but with Terry,
kind of interesting, huh?
With Terry, he said, you know, when the official story was starting to unravel, he said that's not the way it happened. You know, he was very distraught over that. And, you know, when they said his family's asking questions, they're like, oh, you're just paranoid, you watch too much TV. And, you know, it's all about...
What about Browning? They come in his office twice and said, we're going to kill you and your wife.
Yeah, yeah, they basically said, yeah, people that ask questions like you, they end up dead. No, them and their wife end up dead. FBI agent saying that to him, you know, and he knew that was a threat. You know, it was just a blatant threat. And
he said again by the water cooler too.
Yeah, it's all about intimidation, you know, and just trying to squash the information.
I got to be honest. I mean, somebody said that to me, I'd have a lot of trouble not, you know, punching them right in the nose. But that's how cowardly America's gotten. Don has incredible courage to go public. I'm just saying everybody just grovels to the government. Oh, threaten to kill me. That's wonderful.
Well, and this is part of why we wanted to make State of Mind, is because once A Noble Lie came out, we were asking, why don't more people question these events? You know, and so we really wanted to look at the mechanism that put people into, you know, conditioning and under a level of control where they don't question, where they just, you know, accept authority without question. And so we really wanted to break down the methodology of how it's done, not just the
We'll talk about mind control. People in national security, because I've talked to so many of them, friends, family, others, they're told, you ever don't do what we say, we're going to kill you. And it's this attitude of they're allowed to kill us. I mean, it's just, it's amazing.
Oh, it's for the greater good, you know. It's like, yeah, sometimes they might have to kill Americans. It's you know, and we don't need to know about it because, you know, the government knows best. You know, and that whole mindset, where did that really solidify in people's minds? You know, we find that in public education, this is really where it starts. It's not about learning to think critically, using logic and reason. I mean, I had to deprogram myself after I got out of school and teach myself how to think, because it was all about accepting authority and regurgitating useless facts so you become a cog in the machine.
Tell us about your experience as a whistleblower.
My experience as a whistleblower started out being a naive corporate worker. So I'm there just trying to, you know, live up to the standards that I was brought up with through American culture. And then when you get into, you know, the workplace and you're surrounded by people who might not have the same values, because I come from the Midwest, we have a different set of values than people in New York City. When you see things that are unseemly, when you see things that are illegal, and you blow the whistle under protection, you expect protection from your corporation, not a standard operating procedure to fire you, to terminate you. And so you know, going to court, I thought, well, I'm going to get justification. I'm going to present evidence. Going to the media, I thought maybe they would cover the story. And after proving everything in court and going to people like Lowell Bergman, who said, yeah, there's valid information here, but we can't cover it. And so then I just started to discover alternative media to go out and look beyond what I was being force-fed through the Wall Street Journal or, you know, USA Today is what they give you at the hotel, right? And I started reading into things like Foreign Affairs, where you can see, you know, these people have a transnationalist agenda. They're here to collectivize America. They're here to undermine our education, and they do it also, they reinforce it through TV and corporate media. And so they're breaking down the self-reliance, self-esteem, self-confidence of Americans to make us spineless, and that's reinforced, as you've noticed many times or observed on your show, the father figure in sitcoms, spineless individual who's being run into the ground, can't solve problems by themselves. And so by taking away the intellectual tools of how to learn anything for ourselves, they've made us very, very dependent on authority.
I got to get this guy on more often.
Yeah, we're really lucky to get him to come on board as the head researcher and writer for...
Yeah, I didn't go over your whole bio. Tell folks a little bit more about yourself.
Well, let's see. After finding out that corporate media was kind of debunked and it's on its way out because they no longer have investigative journalists or budgets, I'll pull that a little closer.
There you go. You're good.
Then you start to notice these press conferences. Actually,
you're good. I'm aiming it right at you.
There you go.
It's on you now.
And you start to notice the press, the contradictions. You start to pick up on the contradictions, and you start to dig into it. And what I thought, you know, when I first was still wearing a suit at corporate world every day, was that. Well, this will just pass.
Skip this network break, guys. Go, keep going.
This is just something that you see on the internet that has no credibility. But when I dug into books like Carol Quigley's Tragedy and Hope or The Anglo-American Establishment or John Taylor Gatto's The Underground History of American...
It's just all admitted.
Scientific Dictatorship is Chapter 9 in Gatto's book, and it explains clearly Bertrand Russell and these other transhumanists, transnationalists, you know, all these different agendas that you cover on your show, they all have commonality. This is a finite planet. The globalists are a finite group of people. And Hastings or Jeannie Palfrey or Gary Webb or any of these other investigative journalists or people who have had stories that, you know, needed coverage, they have to come here because luckily we have someplace on this planet that does have the budget to get these big interviews. I don't have the ability to do this myself. I couldn't interview Sergeant Joe Biggs today and break that story. So I'm grateful that there are people out there that are, you know, aiding you and assisting you because I've seen you struggle over the years. And
well, I'm trying to get other. That's why I try to support other media outlets, show that we're not one of the only ones doing it. Because I just want to win this thing. It's not about being a big media guy. I mean, if I'm successful, they'll probably take me out somehow. You know, if not physically, politically. So my mission is almost like a mushroom to get my spores out there, so that there's a million mushrooms, so they can never wipe us all out. That's why I've got the reporters. That's why I'm trying to build an organization, so even if they get me, it continues, because then that makes killing me obsolete. I mean, these are the type of thoughts we have to have around here.
Well, it's worked, because, I mean, this was the inspiration for me to start Free Mind Films, was I wanted to be able to participate in this and create tools, because we have our roots in street activism. So I want to be able to give people tools that they can take to their friends and family, the uninitiated, and present it in a way where, you know, it's acceptable to them. You know, it's like it's not just for the choir. We want this to show to the uninitiated, where you can really give them a foundational understanding of you know, the control, and then maybe be able to escape it, and then just start looking at the bigger pictures. You know,
state of mind is kind of a starting point. So it gives you the tools to communicate with your friends and family and coworkers in a credible and desirable way. And it also is backed by a lot of research where we're able to bring you in depth. So for the choir, there's something else. And for the congregation, it's something meaty. So you have this additional information that is available if you want to dig in past the film and see about any of these underlying agendas of MKUltra or eugenics or any of these other things that are covered in its depth and entirety with references.
Tell folks who all is in the film.
Well, we have Giora Griffin, we have Anthony Schaefer. He was specifically talking about some of the PSYOPs, you know, kind of breaking those down with his experience in the military intelligence. We've got several psychologists. We've got Colin Ross. We've got John Rappaport.
Bruce Levine.
Bruce Levine. Bruce Levine, I actually found him through one of the shows that you did on Prison Planet. And the guy really comes up with solutions. It's not, you know, it's not just pointing it out. He comes up with ideas.
He's a great psychologist.
Yeah. And Get Up, Stand Up, I think was his book. And it was very inspirational. We've got Charlotte Iserbeet, you know, Kay Beach, great activist, yourself. So really good lineup of people, a real broad spectrum. And to get the psychologists in there, man, they've got a way of just getting right to the heart of the matter, be it, pharmacological control of society or, the coming up with disorders like anti-authoritarian personality disorder. These types of things.
Which should be, doesn't want to be a slave disorder.
Yeah, yeah. And so we were really pleased with the lineup. I think these folks really get the message across.
Well, the film is available at InfoWarsStore.com, State of Mind, the Psychology of Control. And it's so important to get the film so that you're informed to a higher level so you can wake up your friends and family, but also to support these filmmakers and what we're doing. You vote with your dollars. We're not like MSNBC and others that get taxpayer funds. We don't get Rockefeller Foundation funds. We are supported by viewers and listeners out there like you. And we also have it on Blu-ray because I said, hey, we're going to put this out on DVD. I paid to put some Blu-rays out as well because Obama Deception 2 is going to be out on Blu-ray. The whole issue here is it's good to have a hard copy of things like this as well. We will premiere it on InfoWars Nightly News of the 17th. As it's already being shipped out to everybody that buys a hard copy, then obviously that'll be available to people out of the gates, a film for everybody to be able to see free after it's been on PrisonPlanet.tv. But you have to understand something. That's because they want to get the information out to people. And if they don't sell enough to make their money back, there won't be any more films. So we're right at the level at current sales that maybe within 3-4 months, because that's really the main life of a film, that it tapers off to try to even make their money back. So for heaven's sakes, folks, we're up here risking our lives. You guys definitely risk your lives in the Oklahoma City film. They kill a lot of people over that. So we're here risking our lives. You need to buy the film. I mean, people out there should buy 5 copies and give it to friends and family. People should get PrisonPlanet.tv memberships, and you should. After premieres live that night, during the live show, then we're going to go to tape and play the film. You should use your PrisonPlanet.tv membership, the next day when you have the high-quality download of it off the site, to have your friends and family come over, maybe the 18th, or watch it live stream that night. The whole point is that it's now time to go out and proselytize for liberty to other people. I want us to beat this evil, and we've got to become aware of the evil if we have any chance of doing it. And what do you guys think is happening? Because you're both really smart guys. I've heard your radio shows, over the years, so I feel like I know you so good, even though we've only met a few times in the past when you were making films. Why do you think they're racing ahead right now, and why do you think the agenda is coming out in the open? Because people are spinning it saying, Snowden must be an agent and blah, blah, blah. But I've experienced every time I do something, I know I'm not an agent. I know I'm real. And they say, oh, he must be an insider, because of the fact that he's been successful. It's almost like this idea that no one can be successful but evil people, when that's not true. That's what's so frustrating. So what do you think's happening in the state of the battle right now?
We were talking about this just before the show. It's like trying to hold a ball underwater. Its natural state is to pop out, and
we're
they have
inflating
to
the ball.
Yeah, they are exerting so much control to keep it underwater, and these types of efforts, yes, inflate the ball.
Brzezinski said his greatest fear is a massive global awakening of consciousness, and that's what they're seeing right now. They're seeing the internet used and social networks used in a way that they never imagined. They wanted to data mine us, to use artificial intelligence, to chew on that data mining, to provide profiles, to predict our behavior and control us like human resources.
And now they're predicting their defeat.
Yeah, absolutely. And so people are waking up faster and faster, and the massive global awakening of consciousness is stimulated by independent media. We are the ones waking people up. Everyone who does something on their own without being told by an authority to do it, or a big corporation paying you to do it, thinking on our own, using our creativity and imagination, that which corporate society and education wants to snuff out, by reigniting those flames of liberty, then evil doesn't have to happen because good people do nothing. Good people know how to do something and get it done.
And all it takes is to get involved. Just one step leads to the next, I mean, a lot of this starts out with just local activism, or like you said, take the bumper stickers, put those on a car, give the
big things have small beginnings. What did you make of Staff Sergeant Biggs on saying, I've just got to stand up. I can't be a coward. My gut tells me this is bad. It doesn't add up. And now others will stand up, and then they'll crush people. What I found is when they crush whistleblowers, it scares the cowards. They're already cowards, but it makes the real men and women actually fight harder. I see them having to kill a bunch of people as the beginning of the end.
last desperate act. I mean, I think that, you know, we see that we're getting closer to critical mass. I mean, everything's out in the open. I mean, some of the T-shirts I wear and stuff, I just, you know, random people will come up and start talking about the NSA, you know, coming out saying, you know, that they're monitoring everybody. It's like, well, you know, everybody was talking about this, you know, 96, 97 with Echelon and Carnivore. You know, it's like, well, now it's just out in the open. So much has come out. Again, you said, you know, social media, we're taking their tools and using them against them.
And everybody remembers that they made fun of us and said we were crazy liars, and then exactly what we told them came true because it was already there.
Yeah.
It didn't come true. They just took the blinders off.
It was what,
and we're not prophets, but they have business plans. And if you read these business plans, you can understand their agenda.
No, that's it. They have business plans.
Exactly. And they're intellectually bankrupt. They're irrational. They use force, fraud, and coercion to attain their goals.
That's another thing. I've studied these elitists. They have the most unhappy families. Their kids are all committing suicide. I mean, it's not good for them either.
Right.
I mean, it's not good to screw everybody over. It's going to come back on you.
Yeah, and well, and I mean, they're pure ego. They're pure just will, and that's why I think why there's so much infighting within their own ranks. You know.
Thank God.
Yes.
Well, and one of the other things we've lost in this country is integrity as a core value. And people in this country say they value truth. The people who read
my most valuable possession is my integrity.
Right.
I mean, I really enjoy. It's not just like I'm a goody two shoes. I feel good knowing that I really am a good guy. That's why they always try to say I'm not good, because the system knows. They know that. They don't want you to think there's other good people.
Well, integrity is doing what you said you were going to do when you said you were going to do it. And it's about that consistency that your friends and family can trust you and coworkers. And so our whole society is based on trust. And J.P. Morgan said at one point, the entire banking system is made on trust. And they've broken that trust. They've broken that trust. They've abused their system. And that's what's causing people to wake up. And they're not going to go back to sleep because there's only more and more and more substance to find.
Wow, man, awesome. Let's come back and do another segment or two. Great job with the crew in there and all the listeners. And then you're going to be on the news tonight. Back for an hour tomorrow to get into the film itself. We're going to play some video clips tomorrow. And I want to ask you when we come back, though, I mean, what did you make of that Biggs interview? You were out there listening. What did you think of that?
It was fantastic. I mean, it's really great that somebody today can see that there's something going on and have the urge and the motivation to make a phone call and spread that information.
And go against the mind control.
Right.
All the peer pressure.
Exactly. And to have an outlet like what you have.
We're on the march.
Absolutely. We'll be right back.
The Empire.
Alex Jones here, back live. By the way, here's a Herald Sun article. Hastings previously revealed he'd been subjected to death threats during his investigation of General McChrystal, saying it was commonplace in his line of work. Wherever I'd been reporting around groups of dudes whose job it was to kill people, one of them would usually mention that they were going to kill me. And it's not a joke, ladies and gentlemen. We have a degenerate ruling class of corporate anti-liberty fascists using disgusting socialism at the grassroots to create a bunch of sycophantic, lazy dolts to be used as political weapons to pull down society. I mean, every message you see out there is anti-family, anti-this, anti-that, and all the fake equality moves you see promoted are not about real equality. It's about the federal government manipulating groups of people against each other. I mean, it is unbelievable. But there's the Herald Sun. And I'd forgotten, because I remember reading this about a year ago, that he was being death threatened. And then his buddy mentioned it, and then it was the weirdest thing. I wasn't even searching it. I already had an article up there about reporter Michael Hastings sent panicky email, and then I just looked as he was talking to me, and there was the Herald Sun with it saying it. While he's talking about it, I'd seen that nowhere in the news, and the article I had up said it from 2 days ago. I mean, it's just, it's hiding in plain view. And his wife comes out and says, we're going to find out who did this. We're going to take down whoever did this. And I'm telling, you know, he said off air to me that she was busy. Should have got this on air, you know, in grief right now. He may have said it on air. It all mixes together. But she better either decide to pack it up and shut up, and that's still a dangerous course, or go totally public now. That's probably the safest course. I mean, it's not very safe to just say I'm going to shut up because they know that she may go public later. And look, they'll kill her. I mean, they'll kill everybody because I've been talking about this for 2 weeks since it came out in the New York Times. It just reminded me that hundreds of thousands of U.S. troops got nerve gassed. Even USA Today admitted it. Our government ordered the stuff blown up, knew the wind was blowing right into Kuwait, let them huff it, said, take your mask off, just like the World Trade Center collapsed, because they didn't want to admit it was hurting them when the detectors went off. Just take your mask off as a sign of, see, it's safe. by the way, we're going to helicopter out of here as the generals real fast, knowing it was a slow death sentence, did they cross anybody? No, it's like they get off on hurting people. What do you think that psychology is? Because they use psychology on us, but they're the ones that are really screwed up.
Well, I mean, they're a lot of the hallmarks of psychopaths. I mean, you know, and it's psychopaths are what genetic and environmental, and they're told from birth that they're, you know, through social Darwinism, that they're superior to, you know, all the rest of us. And yeah, it's like Orwell talking about, you know, it's the thrill of victory over a helpless victim. You know, and
trampling and being trampled forever.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that Dr. Bruce Levine talks about in State of Mind is learned helplessness. And I think this is what, you know, people have to overcome in order to really get engaged and get involved. And it's, you know, after so many times of thinking that they can't do anything, that they are powerless, then they just stop trying. You know, and it's just getting that motivation to try.
Stop giving up.
And like this Biggs man, he's not going to roll over. He doesn't have to learn helplessness. He says he's going to get involved and do something. And you know, more brave people like that need to step up, and that's where we hit the critical mass.
Well, he made the decision on air. He said, "I'm going to do more. I'm going to go full into this." And I could hear him doing that. And I didn't tell him, you know, who I thought was behind it and stuff off air to scare him. I wanted him to know, and so he understands. Okay. Listen, you're not imagining this, bud. Your common sense, you know, they killed your buddy.
And if you're going to come out big, you know, because then more people will be aware if they actually.
That's what Garrison said.
Yeah,
Jim Garrison.
Yep.
Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Schaefer says in his extended interview, I think it got cut from the film, but he says at one point, he explains very clearly that the Pentagon's rules for information warfare include assassinations. And so he explains that if there's a political figure, if there's an activist figure, if there's a whistleblower figure, that falls under the realm of infowar, of psychological warfare and infowar, the carrying out of assassinations on activists. So you're looking at intraspecific kleptoparasites. These are people of the same species who are preying on us. They prey on our, we produce, they...
Say that again.
Intraspecific kleptoparasites.
Did you coin that?
No, it's a 1952 paper by Miriam Rothschild. So they study animals. There's a whole bunch of Rothschild species from, you know, they use their money to study animals and human beings to understand us and control us. So there's Rothschild giraffes, butterflies, all these different things. So they find...
No, I knew they named a lot of animals after themselves. Yeah.
Right. So they came up with this term for, it was gulls that they were studying at the time, but they're saying of the same species preying on each other. And that's...
Sure, well, that's what I've said. That's what it is. It is predator guilds above us. We are not the apex predator. The psychopath inbred guild is the apex predator.
Well, and they've built protection systems over time. So these are multi-generational guilds of psychopaths, of sociopaths, of people who don't care about anyone else's free rights or free will.
Well, they enjoy, actually.
Yeah. They get off on taking the power.
I mean, look at the BBC with their child raping guild. I mean, it's, you know.
And they need people's fear to control them, because fear shuts down your mind. It makes you stimulus response. Stimulus response is slavery. Stimulus thinking response is freedom. We have to put that thinking back in between stimulus and response.
What would you call the instinct just to absolutely have to resist this? That's my I mean, I'm trying to stop species death. My whole instinct is defend humanity, stop these people.
I think that's just being human, man. I think that's just a human response to this abnormal situation that has gotten out of hand because we've been lied to for so long. But now we're...
And what happens is good people are just as mean or even meaner than these mean people. We just don't get in that mode. They know once we get in the mode, they're done.
Right.
Once we get in the mode, it's over for them.
Right. And we have to be serious about this because there's no do-overs, there's no mulligans, right? And so we all have to work together. We have to unite all the forces, you know, and get together on common ground. We have commonality with every other human being on this planet insofar as that we want our right to live. We want our right to property so that we can preserve our life and these sort of things. And this other group just wants to take that away. And there's a long, credible history to it. And it's sad that American children are being denied that education in school.
Well, they admit it's a multi-thousand-year war against humanity, and that's why they call it the final revolution, finally breaking us where we can never defeat them again.
Well, and it's, you know, it's very obvious to all the listeners, you know, that it's moving towards a collectivist plan. I mean, that's the obvious goal. But now you're trying to get a lot of individualists to act in a collective manner, and it is difficult sometimes. But it's just because, you know, maybe this activist path is different than the other. That doesn't mean that we're not all heading to the same destination.
All roads lead to the end of the New World Order.
Exactly.
And in fact, the fact that we're going in so many different directions is why they can't stop us. That's been my goal, is just to generate as many resistance operations.
So the fact that we're becoming autonomous because we're thinking for ourselves and directing ourselves, and nobody's telling us to go out and do this. American schooling is based on a Prussian schooling model, which, as you very well know, leaves people to be obedient servants, not self-thinkers that are critically thinking about their life.
The most important thing I do now is everywhere in public, even my wife or kids are there, I just start talking about the New World Order, and I make a big scene. And in a nice way. When somebody tries to peck at me in a bureaucratic way, I just go, okay, let's get it out in the open here. This is going to be, this goes two ways. I'm about to inform you. And they always go, I actually know that's true. I go, you know you're a slave. You know this system's after you. You know you're acting pathetic on a power trip, imagining you're in charge. Tune into your real humanity right now and stop acting like that. And it almost always breaks their trance.
Well, and they've wrote books about this through history, like 1939, H.G. Wells' New World Order. He very clearly in there says that they want to create a world government and create a new religion. That new religion is non-critical thinking. It's stimulus, response, operant conditioning is the religion.
Robot.
Robot, exactly.
Yeah, just turning people into cogs in a machine.
What was it like for you as you began to discover this stuff?
Oh, it was pretty scary because everyone was just like, drop it and go back to work. Go find another job. Just get along to go, go along to get along. Don't worry about this. And people were saying, look, it doesn't really matter if there's a backdoor in the Sarbanes-Oxley software that's federally mandated to protect from another Enron or Tyco. And Tyco was one of my clients, and they said, we don't want to keep this data like the regulations say. We want to use the back door so we can hide all this stuff. So what you see with the financial collapse and all this NSA spying is they've kept every piece of information except the evidence to catch the people who stole the quadrillions of dollars.
Well, no, it's just like the electronic voting machine software always is designed to let the hacker in and then close it and cover it up.
Right.
It's a system designed for crime.
Right.
I mean, unbelievable.
It's a prophylactic product, but that prophylactic has a hole in it, purposely, because they're trying to get America pregnant with this criminal syndicate.
Well, what they do is they always create trapdoors for them, but that we don't know about.
Right.
Like all the rich people, they don't pay any taxes. They don't give tips. These globalists are all the same. That's why people always hate the Bilderbergs so bad. They'll go and have like $500 a piece dinners and then not even pay for it, and taxpayers pay, and then no tip, and then say, I want this man fired. He looked me in the eyes. I mean, can you imagine controlling trillions of dollars, having hundreds of billions in your account, and you enjoy the fact that the waiter can't pay their bills? You enjoy they're not doing good. You enjoy, I mean, can you imagine that?
Well, in the corporate world, like I said, when you find out about this stuff, it seems incredible or like it's not credible. But then you find a book like David Rothkopf's Superclass. He's a member of the CFR and the Carnegie Institute. So he's telling you there's 6,000 individuals around the world who act as a superclass to whom laws don't really apply, and they control what we think is voted on with, checks.
Rothkopf told me off air when he was head of the Kissinger Group, he said, "Why?" John Hartman was running the show and heard it. He goes, I came on, I know who you are, Alex. I came on because you need to join us. You need to be part of this. I'm just like, I mean, it's always the same.
True believers.
Well, they told me, you see it. You need to be part of it. The public will tear you into pieces.
Well, and I think a lot of that plays into the learned helplessness whenever they're too big to jail, and they know, if somebody else goes and steals a, couple $100 TV or whatever, they're in prison. These guys are still, trillions, right. and not anything happens to them. That plays into the learned helplessness. It's just, that's more of the...
Well, no, it's like a pimp in that famous HBO piece. She's been beat up, run over. She's got broken bones, disfigured. And the pimp's going, HBO goes, what do you pay her? And he goes, nothing. He goes, she's lucky if she eats once a day. She's lucky if I give her fried chicken. And the mother goes, how'd you do this to my baby? And the woman's groveling to the pimp. And that's what TSA, all of it is just worshiping that we're scum and filth, and the cops can kill us whenever they want, taser us whenever they want. They are breaking our will.
And the mind control of the pimp over the prostitute is no different than the person who owned a gladiator back in the day. A man small in stature could use fear and words and mind control a bigger man and get him to fight for entertainment. So what you have is the New World Order. The difference between them and us is that they don't have faith in the public. They think we're animals, and we have faith in the public. We know people can adapt, evolve, and overcome. They can learn. They can reignite their curiosity and start to take it upon themselves not to be a victim in this system that makes everyone a victim until you know what's going on.
Well, I just think it's important to get crazed again, like an original human, and just get angry. We have the instincts of the programming to crush psychos. They need to be crushed.
I mean, that's what got me motivated, was just the anger over it. It's like, after that you can't stop. You know, it's like, again, just that first step, and you get the motivation, you get moving forward, and getting angry at first is part of it. You know,
that's how you start thinking.
I'm a free human being. I mean, it's like what is it, like drawing the blood here in Texas?
Checkpoints.
It's like what if I don't even own my blood? You know.
Well, they're just normalizing the tyranny, and the general public's like the broken whore, going, "But he's my baby. You know, he's taking care of me when he beats me with a coat hanger." I mean, it's just incredible. And the anger is when you break out of the trance.
It's the outrage. It's the transfer from the anger to outrage, where you actually start thinking and dissecting and paying attention and focusing on what they're doing. I think that's the step that people need to go through.
And then it's the resistance at any opportunity of the targeting. Just every level, you're going to bring them down. You're now in a war with them. And it gives your life meaning, because survival is victory. And we've always been fighting for survival. This is what humans are meant to do. And we are under this scientific technocracy, the scientific dictatorship they're trying to complete. And the messages we've transmitted are going to grow in power against them as their program rolls out. This is going to echo forever. We don't know what chain reaction we're engaging in right now that will sever their control.
Yeah, and then after you start to develop a love for humanity, then that's really where you broke free. You know, as you remove your conditioning, again, start to learn reason, logic, how to think. And
commit. I mean, what about the feeling of commitment?
But I think the love for humanity, that's what drives so many of us, I think, to continue to do what we do and risk it.
I think you commit to think or not to think, and you have to make that choice. You're either going to be a thinker or you're going to be someone who responds to all the stimulus. America's future lies in individuals having autonomy, being able to ask questions, because all learning starts from the question mark. They teach us with declarative sentences in all these books. So you can't gain knowledge from hearing someone else use a declarative sentence. You have to go through your observation, identification, organization, and communication process to actually learn.
They're killing the scientific method.
Right. So they're doing this to us because they are kind of jealous of us. They can't be happy just with what we have as normal human beings. They have to have it all. They have a sickness, call it greed, call it aggression, call it whatever you want.
Control freakism.
Control freakism. And they've been trying to dissolve everything that made America what it was, to stand alone from the British and reintegrate us into an Anglo-American establishment. So, through the legacy of Cecil Rhodes and the CFR and Pilgrim Society and Foreign Affairs and all these different, working groups and different projects.
Yeah, tell me about this Foreign Affairs publication.
This Foreign Affairs article, basically it's talking about transnationalism, and transnationalists do not have grandiose plans for a one-world government, but they give various rules of force of law without having to win majorities for those rules in democratically elected legislatures. So basically, through this idea of transnationalism, they're changing America.
We don't want world government. We're just above the law.
Right, and they're above the Constitution. And so, in very clever word speak, you can learn. I mean, because they
always say we're not setting up world government.
Right.
We're setting up global governance.
I first became a fan of Foreign Affairs. There's a 1998 November issue.
Show people.
It's got the red tag on there. Where they talk about Osama bin Laden, war on terror, and all these things like 3 or 4 years before 2001. And the same people are writing the articles. Zelikow is one of the people. He was in charge of the 9/11 Commission. So you can totally see how they put out a business plan in a couple different articles in one CFR magazine in 1998, and then that comes to fruition.
And then PNAC rewrites it September 2000 and says, we need a Pearl Harbor attack so we can invade Afghanistan and take everybody's liberty.
Right.
I mean, they don't even mince words. It's all planned.
It's right out in the open.
Yeah.
So, but you just got to do the research. Just find it, and that's what's again great about being able to get the resources that
But that's what's frustrating is it's all admitted,
and it's all out there. Like Della said, Americans don't read. But all these books, like I have 20 or 30 books just on the Rothschilds, autobiographies, biographies. Like this is their own primary sources. This isn't some tertiary.
No,
book.
They say they're doing it.
Right. It says on their own website, this is their history, and Battle of Waterloo and the whole history that you hear about as conspiracy is on the official Rothschild websites. So as I went through and familiarized myself with how all these social institutions like Roll Call, Congressional Quarterly, Economist, those are all Rothschild entities. The official magazines of our Congress are owned through the Rothschild banking empire. So when you look at their control over media and politicians...
CIA set up National Review.
Sure. And so it's not just one group of people. There's a common agenda of collectivism that's gone on through history, and the individual is not able to demonstrate intellectual self-defense until you grasp the same tools that they're using against you, and you use them for yourself for liberty and the liberty of others instead of trying to oppress everybody like they're doing.
Man, it is so amazing that they own the whole fake spectrum of alternative media, the so-called alternative media like Foreign Affairs, which is actually put out by the CFR, and they act like it's alternative, or you get things like National Review, and then I know I built all this myself with my listeners, and I'm not controlled, and I know there's other people that aren't controlled. I think that's what's really freaking them out, is that they were going off an old paradigm that, oh, they won't know how to use video editing. They won't know how to use this. They won't be able to do that. But it backfired. I think they're in deep trouble.
They're on hubris, you know. And what is it? Hillary Clinton said, you know, they're losing the information war. I mean, they're coming out saying it.
What the gods would conquer, they must first divide. And if we make ourselves individuals who are unassailable intellectually, and we can bind together voluntarily with other individuals to secure our liberty.
Stay there. Come back and repeat that.
One. All of your filtration.
James Lane and Richard Grove are our guests, freemindsfilms.com. You can get the new film State of Mind and get a free film with it at InfoWarsStore.com for a very limited time, and that supports the broadcast. You guys will be back on the Nightly News tonight and back in studio with me tomorrow, where you head back to your hacienda in Oklahoma. And then we're going to shoot a big special report tomorrow that'll air when we premiere State of Mind for the PrisonPlanet.tv viewers. But you guys, in the last 5 minutes, make any other points, because I really agree with your analysis. You guys have done your research, and I just think it's fantastic to see the knowledge of the globalist tyranny spreading. We now have the fire of Prometheus, with which we can burn the devil to the ground.
Well, we were saying that State of Mind touches on every subject that's covered on InfoWars. This is a hub that people can use to show friends and family all the spokes that they can go from there. It's a jumping point.
Cyber applies to every subject you guys cover on InfoWars, and so it's the primary thing. When we send our kids out to public schools without letting them know how to tell when someone's lying to them, you know, we send our kids out in the world unprepared, and we never really outgrow that extent.
If you send them letting them know it's a brainwashing camp, it'll actually work against the enemy.
Right.
Because your kids genetically know to listen to you.
Right. So they spend a lot of time trying to divide and conquer our homes. And what the gods would seek to conquer, they must first divide. So if we recognize that there is an info war, there's a war on for our mind, and we need to get together with our friends and family, and we need to learn our way out of this. We need to act voluntarily to form groups, and that's how we keep ourselves safe, not by waiting for the state or the authorities to come and protect us. You know, in the case of Boston, there's 1 million people on lockdown to find one 19-year-old suspect. That's unreasonable.
That's insanity.
Yeah, it is insanity.
And just walking up to people's houses, and they're like, oh, no, that's fine, come on in, you know.
And it's only going to get worse unless we, you know, intellectually rise up, practice intellectual self-defense, which is knowing how to deal with the words and the lies and to process them and remove the fallacies so that we can actually find knowledge consistently.
Absolutely. You wanted to get into Huxley. I heard you mentioning him.
Well, you had mentioned Huxley before, and I couldn't help thinking about the Ultimate Revolution speech that he gave at Berkeley, I believe in 1961 or 62, where he says, you know, we're going to make you love your servitude, and that the human being, if you don't think between stimulus and response, they're going to have total control, because there's a unity box on everyone's wall, and it's giving you the corporate media. It's giving you all the same news on every channel, you know, different logos. It's all the same news. And so you have to get beyond that. You actually have to start using your observation skills and go beyond what they're showing you, and that's where the real world is. And that's what I think people can discover as a function of state of mind, is they can outgrow the status quo.
Well, we found an interview with Mike Wallace. I'm sorry, Huxley was on there, 1953, and he basically described the world we're living in today. You know,
no, he said Brave New World is our plan.
Yeah, and talking about the pharmacological control, you know, of the anti-authoritarian personality. I mean, there it was. We see it every day. I mean, the kids are drugged. Anybody goes in for the slightest thing, it's like, oh, just fill them full of pharmaceuticals.
And then say you have no rights once you've been.
And those are results of the psychedelic revolution, which was part of MK Ultra Subproject 58. Jon Irvin at Gnostic Media has done a lot of great work on this, because there are CIA documents, FOIA request documents, where you can see J.P. Morgan and Company getting the financials. Here's how much money they're getting out of CIA MK Ultra Subproject 58, and that goes in the Time Life magazine of May 27th, 1957. May 13th, 1957, Time Life. It's the introduction of magic mushrooms to the world through Henry Luce's Time Life magazine, run by C.D. Jackson, who was a psychological warfare specialist who worked with Nelson Rockefeller.
But then it backfired, and they wanted it removed, and then they brought out the Prozac.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you know, most of these psychotropic drugs are just a synthetic LSD without the trippiness to it. So they are very, like, molecularly, they're very similar.
They got them in dream states.
Yeah.
Program state. So people on this, 20% of the public roughly, are on a mind control programming drug now to be interfaced with the subliminals.
And Huxley's talking about that. It'll be a combination of propaganda and pharmacological control.
Diet, injections, and injunctions.
Bertrand Russell talks about this. Brzezinski talks about
this. Guys, get the film, State of Mind, InfoWarsStore.com. See you back live tomorrow. God bless you all.